Excellent. Right then, folks, welcome back. This week, we got this lunatic on, Aled Morgan. How you doing, bud?
Marvelous, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. This is really weird, man, because I feel like I really know you. I feel like we're mates, and I think we've actually spoken in person once, maybe twice, and we've had a bit of a chat on Zoom like a month ago about this, but I don't know why. I just feel like I've known you a long time. It's weird.
It's probably because I post too much. That's probably because what you see is what you get, and then that's me, and I kind of like to share my stuff, and that's probably what it is. I think my sense of humor comes across very well on social media, so that I'm just a complete idiot, which is great.
I like complete idiots. I feel akin to complete idiots. Brother from another mother there. Right, exactly. Folks, if you've never heard of Aled before, Aled, who are you? What's your name? Where'd you come from?
It's like Sir Black, isn't it?
Hang on. I know it's like 3:00 in the morning over there, but the sun is well over the yard arm here in Blighty, so I'm cracking on. Do you have a little tipple of choice? I know you have to be sensible to this.
I have a Gatorade currently.
You're such a yank.
I know, right? And I have to say like Gatorade. I'm going to say like that. But I think Jenna may be doing a Guinness run for me because, it's only 10:30, so she might grab a tipple for me because she's good like that.
Do you not have like an important thing to do this afternoon?
Yeah, I don't want to do that sober, do I? It's terrifying.
Right, well, in that case, slange, cheers to your health.
Yucky that.
Yucky that, absolutely. Slange shiva. Right, so...
That's bloody awful in this time morning.
Over to you.
So my name's Aled Morgan. 30 years old, I think. Yeah, 30 years old. Now living in the US, born and raised in Wales until about the last 2 years, and then flitted around the UK a little bit. Been riding bikes most of my life, not always very well. Probably still not very well, actually, but I try.
Don't believe him. Don't listen to this.
I kind of done quite a bit in the motorcycling industry, kind of as a bystander, and got to play with them like everybody did, around the field at my nan's, and then I started riding with my dad when I wanted to take it seriously, and then got humbled very quickly by my overweight father that left me in the dust. And then, kind of found my niche and really saw the appeal of motorcycling and all that sort of stuff. So then started racing and did rallies, and then wanted to share that with people. So trained people, and then started my own rally training company. And then that somehow, don't know how, but somehow, probably through sheer stubbornness, led me to the US. And then worked for Triumph for a year, and now contract for Triumph motorcycles out here whilst doing various other stupid things. That's a very short clip of it, but there's a lot more we can explode on that for sure.
I mean, he's missed out the fact that he's British rally champion.
Oh, like X, yeah, but yeah,
there's
like five of us.
Yeah, I mean, are you actually 30? Are you only 30 years old?
Yeah, I'm 92. My birthday's June the 9th, 92. So yeah, 30 years.
You're 5 years older than my son.
Yeah, but I'm not your son. That's all that matters.
yeah. I'd have been doing well because I had him young. I had him very young. Jesus, really? So when we met, was that 2017, 2018? I think it was.
It was 2017.
So was it the London show or NEC? London show, yeah. I think you cornered me when I was doing a wander.
I did, yeah. I recognized the beard and I was like, I think I know him.
And you were like, I can teach you to ride off-road. And I remember just looking at you and going, oh, God, no, not another one. Because I'd had a few people going, I'm going to teach you. Yeah.
The emails back and forward were always great because you were like, yeah, no, this could be great. And then you clocked on, you were like, wait, off-road?
Yeah. It was like, oh, shit, he actually means it?
Yeah.
and he's pretty handy. Oh, God. Sadly, we never got to make that happen, did we? We never actually got to
America. Come out here and we'll go for
okay, then. Okay. Folks, if a few more of you could go and join Patreon, maybe we can facilitate that. And I can foxtrot Oscar stateside for a jolly. I mean, to what?
People need that. do you want to buy him a beer or do you want to send him over here and we can see what happens when you put Mr. Bruce off road? And I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be amazing. I'll make sure all the GoPros are charged. We'll be sweet.
Oh God, I know the way this works, and that may actually happen. You might regret saying that.
I don't regret it. It's very rarely I regret things. It'll just be very, very funny. It's going to make for a great story. That's all that matters. But yeah, 2017 was when we first met. So I was like 24.
Oh, good God.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you rally champion at that point? Was that later? Was that 18, 19 you?
I think it was 18. I think it was. I think it was 18. It was like kind of my whole introduction into it was a really weird one. I don't know if we want to like go into it now or just like we'll come back to it. But like
let's dive in. Let's dive in.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in motorcycles at all. I wasn't interested in them. They terrified me.
Really?
Yeah, they scared the shit out of me. My dad was the motorbike guy. That was his thing. Engines was his thing. I swam and played rugby. And I like dad was awesome. My dad's my hero. He was great at it, and he was patience of a saint with it, never forced it on me, and did everything correct. And I was just like, nah, So I had the kind of the pit bikes and the PW50s and the PW80s and, TY175s and all that stuff. And then had quads. And like my nan had a small holding. Like I had every opportunity to do it. And I'd like play on them a little bit, but like I liked quads, which is hilarious. Because I like felt they were safer. I couldn't I didn't have to keep it upright. But yeah, I was scared of them. I just didn't. It wasn't my bag. And then mum and dad got divorced when I was 15. And like mum was sporty, dad was motorsporty, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then mum moved to Egypt when I was 16, and then it was just me and my dad, And dad was still really supportive, but he wasn't a rugby guy. He, doesn't really care about dirty, sweaty blokes chasing after an egg. Really doesn't, not his bag. He's all right with it, but it's not his thing.
Is he Welsh?
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. But he loves the mud and loves dirt bikes. So it's like, if you're not doing rugby, you got to do something else, right?
Yeah. Great singer.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got a hell of a set of pipes on him. But yeah, we were 16 and I was like, I kind of didn't really knew my dad. We had a very similar sense of humor, and like the more I've aged as well, and more similarities have come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of want to like start hanging with my dad basically and do what he does, and what he liked doing was motorbikes. So I was like, okay, I'll start, I'll give it a go. And I could ride one in a circle, but I'd never done trails. I'd never really done motocross. I'd never done any of that. Nothing.
At 15, 16 years of age?
16, yeah. So 16, I was still very, very new to it.
Yeah.
And I knew clutch and I knew what to do, but like I wasn't anything, I really wasn't anything special at all. If you put me on top of a hill to go down it, I'd shit myself. Like I was not about it. And I just said like, okay, like dad, let's go for a ride. It'd be cool to get to know him. And it was a great time for both of us because like, hi, Coach, go down.
What's he called, Coach?
Coach, yeah. It's the most aptly named dogs you've ever met. She's like a German Shepherd cross something and just loves hugs.
Nice.
So yeah, we like whenever you come out of a relationship, you kind of start learning yourself as well, obviously. So like my dad was relearning him and relearning what he liked to do and having that freedom. And then I was like getting to see my dad discover himself as well. And it was a very, very, very cool time for both of us looking back. And we used to go ride and, we'd go ride up above Aberystwyth and, just different places. And it was just trails. And my dad like had an XR400. This is a long-winded story. But he had an XR400 and we went for a little ride and he'd like follow me around, and just like ride. And I remember the first time I was riding, I was on an XR125L. Like I wasn't on a dirt bike. I was on like a trail bike, kind of like, the early CRS, and just rode along this trail and it was fine. But I struggled my ass off. Like it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. And that was the thing that got me. Like this isn't bragging, but like when I played rugby, I just got it.
Yeah.
You know, if you, I played football, soccer, wherever we are, and I was shit. So I just didn't do it again. You know, I was just like, this is a shit game, not for me. But rugby got instantly, swimming got instantly, and then worked at it, but it was never hard. I just got better, if that makes sense. Whereas dirt biking, I was like, this is fucking nails. You know, this is like really, really hard work. And then I've got my dad next to me, and my dad is like, you know, he's as broad as he is tall. He would not be what you call your typical athlete, you know? And I was like, I was relatively fit. I wasn't that fit, but I was relatively fit. But like, we went riding and he was just sitting next to me and I was pissing sweat and I was exhausted and I was like, this is hard. This is something to this. So then I started like trying a little bit more and just kind of playing around. And then we went for a ride and I remember my dad on the Stateside 400 and we always used to park in the same place. And then we went, you kind of like park by a lake and go down a gravel road. And I was on the XR 125. My dad was on this XR 400, which looked like a proper bike, you know? And he took off down the trail and I have never, still to this day, I have never seen such, like he obviously just thought, fuck it, I'm going to have a little play. You know, I think to him it was nothing.
Yeah.
But to me, sitting behind it, he took off on the trail and I'd never seen such like poetic hatred put into a motorcycle or like anything, you know, like you watch two guys hit each other in a ruck or a rubber and it's just like, it's kind of like two rams butting, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? There's nothing kind of poetic about it. It's just brutality. Whereas with this, my dad, like just full commitment and full confidence in his ability and his motorcycle.
Yeah.
And like, he took off towards this corner and, just hammered it, like kept it absolutely lit. And bearing in mind, like this is the time when I'm like still like and like short shifting and he just lit this thing up. And then was hammering towards the corner and he was clicking up. And where I would have been like in second gear, closing the throttle, beginning to brake, he clicked up. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like what is happening?
Oh man, I can relate to this so much.
I'm
still there.
Yeah. It was just like, what the fuck is happening? That was the sum total of it. And then he hit this corner on this XR 400 and just like blew out of it, you know, just with such like confidence in his ability and such aggression. And the bike was dancing everywhere, but he was just calm as a cucumber, you know. There was no stress, there was no dramas, and the bike is doing everything to get him off its back. And he blew out of the corner, and I was just like, that's fucking cool. Like that. And it was so cool as well because it wasn't like some celebrity, it wasn't like Valentino Rossi, it was like, it's just my dad. And I've never seen my dad be that good at something that was so cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, you kind of forget that your dads are people sometimes and they had like this history. And it was the first time I was like, that was fucking awesome. Like that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And he blew out of that. And then from then on, I was like, I want to do this. Like, this is what I want to do. And I don't want to be professional. I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to win world championships because that's just not realistic. You know, sometimes you've got to be realistic. And that's like 17, whatever I was, I had that chance to be like, it's not going to happen. It may, but it's unlikely, you know, and finances and everything. But I was like, I want to get to the point where people like how I ride a motorcycle. You know, I want to get to the point where people can watch me motorcycle and be like, that was cool. Because my dad did that to me and it totally changed my fucking life, you know? And then from then on, I practiced my craft and I worked at it so hard. I treated it exactly like I treated rugby or swimming. You know, I was in the gym 3 days a week and I was riding at least twice a week and I was doing everything I could. And it took me, my dad didn't do a thing. And I came off rugby and swimming, you know, fitness level. I was in the gym for 2 years straight, like changing my body and getting to like just be fit enough to, just to like because the way I treated it like everything else, like people treat motorcycling as like, yeah, you just go around in a circle, but it's not, is it? Like if you want to be good at it, you've got to be fit. And then to be fit, you've got to be able to ride fast enough for long enough, you've got to be fit. And to be fit, you've got to be practicing. And then you have to add in like the techniques to all of it as well. And it's just, there's so many parts to it. And then you add in, you get it wrong and it crashes and it's 6 weeks off the bike and all that. So I was in the gym hard for 2 years, just dropping weight and doing my body weight exercises and getting it so I could move a motorcycle how I wanted to move on a motorcycle. And then I was practicing and I would come home and I'd watch YouTube videos. That's all I do is I'd watch YouTube videos and I'd go out and I'd try it and I'd do everything I could and I'd ride with as many people as I could just to get better. And at 2 years, I still hadn't fucking caught him. And I was like, what does this take? Like I'd be busting my balls and then he'd just like look behind and you could like almost see him smiling this like in his dirt bike helmet and just click up again and fuck off again. And
like, so he's like, okay, up a level now then.
Exactly. Yeah. Come on. And then it was like, I was trying. And then, I still say I never caught him. He just stopped trying. It was like, I never caught him. And we go for a ride. If we go for a ride now, we haven't been together for a long time because I moved over here and stuff, but still we go for a ride and that fucker keeps me honest. Like he keeps me honest. Like if I'm riding how I want to ride, he's right fucking there.
Man, that must be so cool to have your old boy next to you when you're both like at the level. You're both up there in something that you love and in a real craft.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It takes you. Motorcycling is the scariest thing you'll do in your life to me. And it's like, it takes so long of riding a motorcycle to get to the point where you're like, oh, this is fun. This is a tool to fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially off-road. And it was my dad's ultimate, freedom machine. And then I remember exactly when it happened. We were coming down a trail, and I had my license, we were riding a long time and we both got better bikes and we both progressed and all that. And we were coming down this trail and my dad is the wheelie king. He's not one of those 12 o'clock trials guys. Like he will, anything you want, he'll pick it up at 45 degrees and hold it there until sixth gear. And he'll hold it there until he tells to put it down. He is the wheelie king. And then we were coming down this trail and there was like a step trail and I can't wheelie for shit, but I can jump and slide. My dad can wheelie.
Bollocks. You play this way down.
No. I genuinely can't wheelie. Like if you see me on the back wheel, it's because I'm coming down from a jump, or like something's gone very fucking wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
But, we were coming down this hill and there was like a little step down and I was like just beginning to like enjoy it. And we were riding together, like neck and neck. We weren't racing, we were just riding. And we both like blipped off this jump together and landed. And we both looked at each other. In my head, I was like, that's the fucking coolest thing that's ever going to happen to me. Like that's, and no one was there. It wasn't GoPros. There was nothing to see. Just me and my dad like jumping this trail. And we both had the exact same thought, like, oh, we can jump this together. Do you know what I mean? It was cool. And then from then on, motorcycling was fun and I loved the challenge of it all, but it was fun and you could play with it. And that's when the bike became this like, oh, it's not scary anymore. But it took 3 years.
Wow. I can really relate to what you're saying about like looking at your dad and your dad's just so comfortable and doesn't seem to be exerting any effort. And he's just doing it because that's 100% where I am off-road. Obviously, I am no physical specimen of fitness here, but on a road bike, I'm perfectly at ease on the road, on the track. Yeah. I'm sort of your fast novice inter sort of level, nothing special. But in a 5-day session on a track day, 5 20-minute, 25-minute sessions. By the fourth one, I'm hanging out my hoop, like I could definitely do, we're working on fitness and flexibility and stuff. But when I've gone off-road, mate, I am blown out the even standing up on the pegs, my legs are shaking like a shitting dog. They're cramping up. Yep. And I look round and there's like guys 50, 60 years of age with bigger bellies than me, and they're just bossing these little 350, 400cc off-road bikes all over the place. And I'm just like, and they don't look like they're sweating. I'm like, how'd you do
and
that?
That's the thing. It's so, and that's when I was like, there's so like the brutal beauty of it, because it's just like the bike is everywhere, you know. And then when you actually see someone that is smooth and fast, and like smooth and fast on the track, it's like a paintbrush, isn't it? Like it's never out of order. It's never, you know, it's just like, oh yeah, they're not going that fast. And then you try and keep with them and you're like, fuck me, these boys are flying. Whereas
but even when they slide, it flows. It all just flows.
That's the thing. It's like it always like it's like a oil painting is how I describe it, because it's just there's never, it's one long fluid line.
Yeah.
But then on dirt, because the bike is moving so much more, you know, you watch their head and it's like a jockey. Their head doesn't move. And then underneath them, all fucking hell is letting loose. And you're like, what is going on? And all they're doing is keeping it pinned. They're just absolutely committed to the bit. And that was what got me, was like the faith and the commitment that's needed to ride that point. And I knew it was fitness, and it was confidence, and it was strength, and it was all that stuff. And my dad had it, you know, like my dad was a painter and decorator, and he grew up swinging a paintbrush. And it's like, if you've ever swung a paintbrush, well, you're never going to get arm pump in your life if you've spent 20 years slinging a paintbrush. So like all this, before all this, like you've got to do CrossFit and all this shit. My dad was like cross training, like the old school. There's no school like the old school, is there?
Graft.
You know, like
manual graft.
There's a reason that some sports, there's a lot of brickies, plumbers, painters. There's not many fucking lawyers and dentists doing it. A, because they probably got more sense, but B, they just...
Mr. Miyagi had it. Wax on, wax off. So that's painting.
Exactly.
It? Wax
it's
on,
all,
wax
it's
off.
all arm pump. But yeah, it was, and then that was kind of how it led me to, like, I started racing and, you know, trying my hand at stuff. But how me and my dad rode, we rode trails quickly. And then you go and do Hare and Hounds, and it's totally different. You know, I was very, very happy 4th, 5th, 6th gear and accelerating and riding at very high speeds off road, whereas like 2nd gear through the trees and I shit myself. So then we went and did a rally, and then I was like hooked, you know, instantly, because it was like you could be as fast as you wanted and nothing's coming in the other way. And I was like, done. This is me. This is what I want to do. And then like kind of breaking down then like how I wanted to ride a motorcycle, and the people I wanted to ride a motorcycle like was that style. You know, that's how I wasn't ever like enamored by Hare and Hounds. It was like rally style and having the back end sliding out and all that stuff.
Sorry to interrupt, folks. I will be quick. It is sponsor shout out time. We are sponsored, as always, by Ultimate Add-ons. Bit of a blurb to read out for them. Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles, with a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure, and easily accessible. The Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider, from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within easy reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof, and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter with Ultimate Add-ons. It's all about the journey. Now, folks, if you head to ultimateaddons.com and use the code TeapotOne10, you'll get 10% off. I've got an affiliate link for them as well, which I'll leave down below. So if you listen to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching the vid, have a look at the vid description. And obviously with the affiliate, I also make a slight commission off that. Costs you nothing more. So a massive thanks to Ultimate Add-ons. We are also sponsored by, as always, the Influencer Store. Influencer Store handle all my merch. You can see up there, I've got loads of hats, there's hoodies, there's all sorts of things. So if you head to TeapotOne.com, head to the shop, you can check out all the merchandise, and that is all handled by the folks over at the Influencer Store. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. Again, there'll be links down below, folks. Lastly, a big shout out to all of you over in the clan, over on Patreon. As always, folks, I keep saying this, but it is true. I literally could not do this full time without your support over there. So a huge, heartfelt thank you from me. If you'd like to go that extra mile and help support both the podcast and the main TeapotOne vid channel, then head to patreon.com/TeapotOne. Again, links down below. A massive thanks to each and every one of you who's listening or watching the podcast. I love doing the podcast. I really do. And I love getting all the feedback from you, from all the various different guests that we've had. If you could be so kind, on whatever platform it is that you're listening or watching the podcast, if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify in particular, you can rate the podcast on there. Obviously, a 5-star rating goes a long way to help boost the podcast up through the ranks. And if you're watching the video, just give it a like, give it a comment, and both video and audio, if you share that with everyone that you think might be interested, that would be a massive help. All right, folks, let's get back to it. So what's Hare and Hounds? Can you explain all this off-road?
Yeah, so Hare and Hounds...
Devilishness.
Hare and Hounds is probably the most popular off-road motorsport in the UK, I would say. Motocross, arguably, but a lot of people do Hare and Hounds. It's a very, very good way to get a race in a compact area, right, that is the UK, you know. So Hare and Hounds is basically, they give you a time limit, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever. And it's the hare is the person in front, and the rest of the pack is the hounds. And basically, you're trying to do the most amount of laps. So the person that does the most amount of laps and crosses the line first at the 3 hour mark is the winner.
Wow. Okay. And
that's, you know, over in the US, you have Hare and Hounds, which are like through the desert. So that's like flat out. And then in the UK, it's mostly around, it used to be like motocross tracks with like the parking bit added in, if that makes sense. Or like a couple of like the, you know, the forestry that they don't use, they throw a bit of a loop around there. So you're usually looking like, I don't know, 6 mile lap or whatever. And it's like second and third gear, tighter single track stuff is normal. They've stopped using as many motocross tracks because they save them for motocross, which, you know, makes sense. Especially with like land restrictions and noise restrictions and all that stuff in the UK. Motocross is big business. So now they just use like 3 or 4 farmers' fields and you loop around it basically. And I did that and it wasn't my style. I'm not very good at it. I like riding a motorbike, but I'm not good at it. And then, you know, that's the thing with motorcycling is that when you start specializing in one thing, everything else is different. So like you can be very, very good at Hare and Hounds, but then you go and do rally or enduro, and it's just different. So the guys that are very, very good off-road are doing everything. You know, they all have a trials bike. They all do motocross. They all, you know, they're doing everything. And then with rally, you just basically hold it as fucking wide open as you can for as long as you can and hope nothing happens.
So rally is, it's not laps. It's an actual route over various different terrains, and who you're timed from the start to the end point. Whoever's the quickest wins.
Yes, effectively, yeah. In the UK, they're laps because of land restrictions. But yeah, if you go and do a European rally, it's you know, you'll basically be doing 200 to 300 to 400 kilometers a day. You will not go over, you will not go over the same route twice, and then you're following, you know, a toilet paper with scribbles on it on telling you where to go left and right, basically. And a lot of people try and make it a lot more complex than that, but it fucking isn't. It's the concept of how to do it is very, very simple. And just like with everything, the simpler it is, the harder it is to do right. Like you look at a speedway and you do 4 laps around in a circle, but it is fucking anything but 4 laps around in a circle, isn't it? You know? And that's what rallying is. You know, it was the old adventure race, and you follow directions and then you try and do it quickly. That's it.
it definitely feels to me, maybe it's because, no, I was going to say, I feel like rally is gaining momentum, particularly here in the UK. I'm noticing a lot more events rocking up with rally, with road books, and you can go and road book training weekends where they'll teach you how to do the road book. It definitely feels like it's on the up, for sure.
Well, it's the spirit of rally. The original rally was the Dakar, and the Dakar was done on adventure bikes. It wasn't done on motocross bikes. It was done on adventure bikes.
Yeah. The
old style. And then they started going too quick, and then they capped it by CC, and then they started making them go quicker, and then they capped it by CC, and now they're 450s.
Which is insane, isn't it? When you look at the speeds that they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're still, my Husky 450 was geared for 112 miles an hour.
Jesus.
It's crazy. But that's kind of like the adventure bike is a rally bike. That's what it started out like, and that's the kind of motorcycle that appeals to. And there's so many adventure bikes, with guys and girls on them that loved MotoGP but couldn't go and race MotoGP, and loved motocross but never had a motocross bike. So now they can take this adventure bike and go and race the thing.
Yeah,
and it is the most like aligned with rallying, and it's the easiest to do on an adventure bike, and you can kind of rationalize having one bike in the garage and doing a bit of everything with it.
Yep.
And all of the big adventure bikes have rally bike. It's the easiest kind of factory edition you can get. If you've got a KTM, you can make it look a lot like, or make you feel at least like a Dakar racer. Same with Africa Twins, same with, whatever you want. There is a race version of it, and a sticker kit.
The best bike in the world, the GS, obviously. Not the GSA, the GS, obviously.
Yes.
Obviously.
But yeah, I think that's why it's gaining momentum. And the terrain is easier. It is easier because it's designed to be ridden faster. It's the difficulty in rally is not the terrain. If you are riding as a trail rider, anyone could do it. The difficulty in rally is doing it quickly. Whereas if you go and do a hard enduro, you'd struggle to fucking walk across it. So the skill set's different as well.
Yeah. Right. Can you explain to those who aren't in the know, obviously, who wouldn't know these things? But okay, we've covered rally, motocross, and enduro, hard enduro. What is the difference with all these? For me, it's just all off road, but there seems to be about 12 different variations on off road.
And just when you think you figured it out, someone will invent something new.
Yeah.
Motocross is a track 20 feet wide around a farmer's field. And I'm going to dumb all of these down because this is where people get lost. People get lost in the weeds and like, but this bollocks. It's all the same fucking thing. Exactly. It's a track, a man-made track, typically with a couple of jumps around a farmer's field.
Come on, Alid, or woman-made.
Yes, it is. Made. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. And then motocross typically will be like 20 minutes round in a circle plus a lap, or 40 minutes round in a circle plus a lap. Okay. And then you'll normally do that twice in the day. And then you're separated by class, etc. But that's the premise of it. And the lap would be 1.5 miles, 2 miles maybe. It's not a big lap. That's how motocross works. And then enduro was originally based off horse trials. So it was an endurance test. That's where people lose the enduro part on. So if you imagine you have 3 motocross tracks, there's usually differences that are close to like a hare and hounds track, but let's just, for the sake of the maths, you have 3 motocross tracks. 1 in London, 1 in Birmingham, 1 in Manchester. An enduro would start in London, and then you would do the first lap of the motocross track in London. And then you have a time to be in Manchester, to be in Birmingham to do your second test. And that is where the endurance test comes in.
Uh-huh.
So then you have to ride on time. And if you arrive early, that's fine. You just have to wait until your time clicks over, and then you click through that checkpoint. You do your special test, and then you carry on. If you arrive late, you get penalized. And the reason that that's an important part is because the going, as they say it, from London to Birmingham could be sand. So you could be a very, very, very fast sand rider. But then the going from Birmingham to Manchester could be through the trees. So you can't make up your time. You have to be a rounded rider. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then you go from Birmingham to Manchester and the same thing. And if you stay on time and everyone stays on time, then the person that has lapped the motocross tracks the fastest wins. And that's how it works. And then if you lose time, then you go into like the second category. So you're like, you did these quick, but you lost time on the going. And that's how enduro works.
Mate, I don't know why, because I'm at a level where I shit myself if I see a puddle in mud. You talking about enduro made my danglies tingle, and I was like, oh, I want to try that. I don't know why.
Enduro's badass.
Yeah. That to me was like, oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to learn to ride off-road.
You take enduro and you expand it by kind of 100% again, and that's rally.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah. So like with enduro, you're not going Manchester, Birmingham, London, but like these examples you are. In rally, you'll go in London, Paris, Moscow. You know, you're going so much bigger. And like that's what Paris-Dakar was. It was from Paris to Dakar.
Yeah.
Fast as you can. Send it.
Yeah.
And that's the differences, basically.
Do you think it'll ever go back to that? I know there's a lot of politics, but do you think it'll ever go back to that?
So there's the Africa Eco race, which is close to it. And they try to say that it's the original Dakar and blah, 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 blah. And it is, but it's not Dakar. Mm-hmm. No, that's unfortunately, it's like that. It's like a golf advert. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody as close to a golf, but it just fucking isn't. So I think there's too much corruption through all entities involved to ever get the pureness back of what it was in the 80s. And that's not just specific to rally, that is the world over.
Mm-hmm. I suppose there was a reason, wasn't there, that they had to move from, well, the Mauritanian leg in particular. There was a reason why they had to move from that. And I've experienced a tiny little slice of what that's like down there, and it's not got any better. So it seems such a shame, doesn't it? Because what a monumental achievement or entity to be involved with to do that from Paris to Dakar. It's just, I mean, that's an epic road trip, isn't it?
They've done Paris to Cairo a couple of times, and then they've even done one that went all the way to Cape Town. They did it once. It was like 50th anniversary or something.
Wow.
So you can imagine that, you know, you're going, I mean, in some of those countries, you would want to go as fucking fast as you could through, but you're like pinned through the center of Africa. And I just don't think, the problem is that there's always that bias between the adventure of it and then the safety of it.
Yeah.
And there's always, if it's going to be really adventurous, it's not going to be that fucking safe, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. I remember, I don't know if it still goes on, but there was a rally. Was it called the Baku Rally? Something like that? Was it Baku Rally? Because I remember when I was in Mauritania, I ended up staying in a like not hostel, like an overlanders rest stop in Nouakchott in the capital, and there was a Hungarian chap there. I think he's Four Fingers Photography on social media, but he's a really great guy, and he'd won the Baku Rally quite a few times, but now he was involved in the actual planning of it. So he was over doing recce's on some routes and things like that, but he was on a 4x4 now, and he was a big help to me. Like when it all went a little bit wrong for me at Rosso and it got a little bit tasty, you know, he was straight on the old socials going, "Where are you? Where do you need me? I'll be there." You know, he sort of followed up behind, thankfully, and he's a good lad. Still keeps in touch to this day, but I'm not sure if that rally's still going, the Baku. Do you know? I
haven't heard of it. The thing is sometimes they change their name for differing reasons. And rallies, they're very, very well, they're either around for like 50 years or they kind of a bit flash in the pan, and they'll do 2-3 years or 6-7 years, and then the organizer gets bored, or you know, there's not enough people going in, and it has to make money, unfortunately. And this is the thing that a lot of people kind of get hung up on, is like, it has to make money, but like, why does it cost so much? But I still want this, exemplary professional outcome. And it's like, well, you've got to, there's always that, you've got to pay to play kind of thing, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
So, that happens a lot as well. And it's very, very difficult it's very difficult to organize any event and run it properly, but it's very difficult to organize a rally and run it properly because you have no control over the course. And that's the big thing that people forget is everything else you do is closed course, and it kind of is on a rally, but fucking animals don't know it's closed course, do they?
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty. And when you're covering 500 miles, if you think about it, you're doing a road ride at 500 miles, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
On the road. So then when you add in trees, floods, deserts, all that, and then it gets a bit of a bad rap of like, oh, the road book wasn't right. Yeah, because the road book was written a week ago and then it was checked today, but then we had a storm come through and it blew a tree down. So it's always a bit, exactly. And I think if you're doing rally because you want this professional adventure, you'd be better off going and paying for a professional adventure. Whereas if you were doing rally because you're like, this is going to be a little bit risky, obviously if people die and people get injured because things are wrong, that's never right. But there has to be an element of fuck it, it is what it is. Yeah,
it's got to be an element of acceptance, hasn't there? Into any kind of motorsport, I think, or 100%. Any event that involves a willing human participant, then, well, not any event. How am I trying to say it? An event like a motorsport event, an event that involves physical endurance, physical endeavor, anything that pushes you outside of your comfort zone, physically, mentally. You have to accept that there's a risk, isn't there? There has to be a risk. Rock climbing, road racing.
That's why you do it.
Anything. Rugby. God, you could get a bang on your head and die on the pitch, can't you? Like I've heard of people snapping their necks in the scrums. All this sort of stuff happens, doesn't it? It's sad, but you accept that there is an issue with it. So if you're gonna start riding around sand dunes at 110 mile an hour through camels, then you got to accept the fact that something might happen for sure.
And I think that's a lot of people will take umbrage with that, and you can, and rightly so. Like you're paying $100,000, it should be safe. It should be safe, but riding a motorcycle isn't safe. It's not. It just isn't. And there's a big graph on that, but I think if you're doing it for the right reasons, some people will always want to find the negative things, and some people will always want to find the positive in things. And that's just it. That's just people, though, isn't it? No matter what, that is just people, isn't it? Yeah, you're a glass half full, a glass half empty, or a realist, and I am half full. I am like it is 1/16 full. That's me. Mm-hmm. I need like a 2% chance, and I'm gonna have a go. So there is a chance. Yeah, exactly. And it's just different people. It's the way people look at it.
Right. So throwing yourself through trees and mud on a motorbike, and then walking along the seabed. How did this happen?
I really fucking hated school.
It's not a bad occupation to fall into. No, exactly. Commercial deep sea diver.
Yeah. So my mum traveled a lot. Right. And I swam, and then there's only so many laps you can do around a hotel pool before you get bored. So then I started snorkeling, and I was snorkeling when I was like 6, 7, I think it was. And it sounds like a colossal name drop, but it's not. I was very fortunate to travel a lot with my mom, and only now do I realize how many countries I went to and what I did, But I was like, I think I was 8 or 9, and we were on safari in Kenya. Again, it sounds like a massive name drop, but it was lost on me at the time, unfortunately, but it was still cool. And I was buggering around in the pool as always with a snorkel, and just, I was like a fish. And there was a dive company there. And they came and saw my mum and were like, would he want to have a try dive? Would he want to try scuba diving? And she was like, he would love scuba diving, because that's, I loved the sea. I loved the water. I loved the sea. I was more comfortable in it than walking on land, to be honest with you. And then they put this scuba tank and goggles on me, and I was like, all of a sudden this whole world opened up, because I had like a good breath hold because I was doing it so much. But now I'm like, I can fucking stay here for hours and look at stuff. And I spent hours in the damn pool just looking, like counting tiles and like just nothing at all. And then I went into the sea and like dove a coral reef at like 8-9 years old. And I just remember being like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I want to do. And then kind of buggered around with the idea of like, what do you want to do when you grow up and all that sort of stuff. And it was just commercial diving. Like, that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. So I did mechanics at college. I did my like AS level because mum said it was a good idea. And if I'd have like given a damn about school, it was a good idea, but I hated school. I really hated it. I couldn't learn in that capacity. I'm like, give me it, I'll take it apart and figure it out. Mm-hmm. Did mechanics and then saved everything, sold my bike, and took my like 98 Renault Megane that was my granddad's up to Scotland, and then did my training course, and then did that for 5-6 years, I think it was. And I loved every minute of it. You were self-employed, so obviously self-employed has its nuances. And being young and self-employed with a very stupid head on my shoulders wasn't the best of things. But yeah, that's all I wanted to do was be an underwater welder and dive commercially. I just wanted to be under the sea as much as I could.
What sort of industries were you working in? Were you working in the oil, or were you working in like fishing, or what was it?
So I did all sorts. I did a couple of body recoveries when I first came out, which is as fun as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then did my last one of them, and it was like a child, and I was like, I ain't doing one of these.
Oh man!
I was like, no, not at all.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then did a lot of inshore stuff, and then did a couple of fish farms, which were absolutely horrendous. I remember calling my dad up and being like, yeah, I've just done this. And he was like, you could pay me as many millions as you want, and there's not a fucking chance I would do that.
Yeah.
So I did that. But it's just, it's an apprenticeship still, isn't it? It's like it's like passing your test. You pass your test and then you learn to drive. It's the same with diving. You come up with a certificate and you give it to an employer and they're like, great, here's someone else I've got to teach, Yeah. So you just earn your stripes and put up with the shit, and then you get some good bits and you get to do some cool stuff. And I kind of did that for the next 6 years. I did everything I wanted to. And then I was like, how old was I when I did that? I think I just turned 19. So
you're kidding me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I passed in college at 17 and then saved up everything. I did like any job I could, really. It was good that dad kind of raised me like that, like you gotta go and earn what you want, no one's gonna give it you. Mm-hmm. So I did I worked at a garden center, I was compost boy, I did that, and then I did was mechanicing, but changing tires, not really mechanicing.
Yeah.
Changing tires. And then I worked in Burton. Do you remember them? The menswear shop?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Great. I was 18, so I got to speak to, it was with a Dorothy Perkins as well. So I just got to speak to pretty girls all day and pretend I knew how to do it. Did that. And then I did sign writing. So I'd print out the
How did you get into that?
Motorcycles. This was ridiculous. I used to ride with a guy that was a plumber and was quite a successful plumber, and then he wanted to start doing motorcycle graphics. And he wasn't a graphic designer. He wasn't anything. He just wanted to do it. He basically did one with Stella Artois on, and then thought he could do graphics. So around there and learned the machine, learned how it worked, and then saw a sign writing thing come up, and it was paying pretty good, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. I had never fucking done a single one in my life. And then spoke to the plumber on how you do it, watched 3 or 4 YouTube videos, and then went and did the interview, and he's like, so you know how to do this? I was like, yeah, I know how to do this. And then figured it out.
Wow. Fortune favors the brave, man.
Exactly, yeah. It's not, you shouldn't apply for the job you can do. You should apply for the one you want.
Love it.
So yeah, I did that for 6 months and saved up, and then went and did commercial diving.
Wow. So what took you? Where did you go from that then? When did motorcycles become a career?
Last year. It's a good question. I did I did the championship. So I gave myself 2 years to do it. I was like figuring it out, and then bought a brand new Husky 17 450, Husqvarna FE 450 in 2017. Bought it brand new, and then gave myself a year to like practice and make sure I was kind of firing on all cylinders. And then the next year I was going to go for the championship. That was kind of like.
What was the impetus for that? Like, what made you think that's what I want?
The bike or the championship?
No, the championship.
No one fucking remembers second place. It's that I'm too competitive on things, and everyone is the world's fastest trail rider, but it doesn't mean shit. You know, like you can think you are the fastest boy on the road, and you go and do a single track day, and you realize you are not
humbled
worth a
very
shit.
quickly. Yeah.
And that was, me and Dad did a race, and I loved it, but I loved it for so many reasons. I loved the fact that I could go as fast as I wanted. I loved that there was a measurability on my progress. Like it was right there. Like, you need to be better, or you can't do any better. You know, it was right there. There wasn't like, oh, I did this corner on this trail really good, and the rest of it I did shit. It was right there, like how I did. And I think that probably came from the swimming and the rugby side of that competitive, like, you know,
accountability kind of thing.
That yardstick was right there in my face.
Yeah.
I got to ride in places I never would have got to ride before, because it's, you know, you're going through forestry that you're not allowed in. And I suppose ultimately I just really wanted my dad to say I was good on a motorbike.
Wow,
that's what I wanted. I wanted that badly. And I wanted his buddies to be like, he's all right on a bike. I wanted that. I really wanted it, because it mattered so much to my dad. And by this point, it really fucking mattered to me. You know, it was already becoming my like obsession. And I knew I didn't stand a chance in motocross, enduro, or Harley and Hounds, because I hadn't dedicated to it. I hadn't kind of like been raised in that. We rode trails quickly, you know, and trails are rallies. So I wasn't raised in that side of it. And I just didn't enjoy it as much. I've never, and this isn't like a willy wave, but like I've never closed the throttle because of the speed of it. I absolutely adore the high speed off-road. You know, it's everything just calms down for me. You know, it's like I finally escaped my head at top speed on a dirt bike.
Because you've got to fully focus on the task at hand.
It's meditation. Yeah.
I used to feel like that on the road. And then I think self-preservation element kicked in, you know, as I got a little bit older, and I had a couple of smashes, and I'm the polar opposite now. I'm so slow on the road now compared to what I used to be. But I used to be like you said, it had to be like to the stop, max the fucking jixer out wherever you possibly could. Idiotic looking back on it now. Yeah. But that's how I used to feel. And I used to feel totally calm doing that. And I used to think, quite fancy giving this road racing lark a shot, you know, I wouldn't get anywhere near it. But in my head, I was like, I could do this. I get that. I totally get what you're saying. It forces you to focus on. It did, yeah. And it was funny because I would find an excuse to drive or ride quickly anywhere, anytime. And then I started racing, and I was like, if I get points, I can't drive to the race. You know, it was like I didn't have a lot of money, so it was like anything I had to do to the van was money that could have gone to my racing. So it was like the harder I drove the van, it's a set of tires or brake pads, and it's just like for what, you know, to piss off the 17-year-old in the Corsa bucket. Like, I've got bigger fish to fry, you know. I'm chasing something here. Yeah. And that was kind of my catalyst of like, that's what I want to do. So then I was like, I need a year to prep and get my head used to going quickly, and get my reactions quick enough, and get my fitness quick enough, and get like the self-discipline right. That's what I felt I needed. And then, I came into the next year and did it basically. And then was because I couldn't afford to do 2 years. So I came in, did it, out, you know, and that was it. Because it was all funded by credit card. It wasn't like
There's no sponsorship in it. There's no support in it. You know, like I had the guy from Sweet Lamb, Mark, he threw me a couple of £100 at the time, which was like, you know, enormous. It was, you know, my fuel to get there back and forward a couple of times. So, but other than that, there was not a lot of help. And rightly so, because the next year no one cares, you know, that's the reality of it. You pour all of that into it and no one cares. It's great for a day or two, and then everyone goes back to talking about Liverpool and Man United, and no one fucking cares again. Very
true, mate. It's very true about so many things, like, isn't it?
I paid 10 grand to do this, and I got a can of beer with a sticker on it for my championship, and that's fucking it. Back to football.
Yeah. on a polar, in a different element of the sport, you look at Johnny Ray, world superbike champion, umpteen times on the trot, but you mention his name to the vast majority of people in the UK, and you know, people will be like, who, you know, and he's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, the guy's a legend within the sport, isn't he?
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, like in mid Wales, you'll talk to a couple of people that are at the races, and you've got like the accolades that the guys that run those events have is like as long as your arm. You know, like Geraint at the Yamaha school, I don't even know how many times British champion is. It's like 11 or 12 British time enduro champion, and like 4 or 5 European champion, and 3 or 4 world champion, and like, you know, and that's just him. There's people all over mid Wales that are like that you just shoot the shit with. And it's just Geraint that owns the farm in Llanidloes, you know? Yeah, that's what everybody else knows him as. He's like, oh yeah, he does a bit on motorbikes. And you're like, does a bit on motorbikes? Like, you have any idea what he is? So yeah, that was kind of the realization of it. But I wanted it for myself. I wanted to have something I could hang my hat on.
So you when you did the British Rally, then you were already an instructor at Sweet Lamb at that point.
I was like helping out, basically. I never totally instructed at KTM, and that needs to be kind of clear. Yeah, there was
Mr. Taxman. If you're listening, he never actually.
Sweet Lamb was the Sweet Lamb Adventure Bike Academy. Yeah. And then it became the KTM thing. I don't know if they still do the Sweet Lamb one, or I think it's just KTM now, I think.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
So I was helping out there, and I was doing a lot on their socials and their media, and helping out a lot with that. And then I started, because I talked to people and was going to quite a few of the events for Sweet Lamb, I personally started getting quite a bit of recognition. And by like quite a bit of recognition, I mean like a couple of people knew my name and they asked me to write an article, you know?
Yeah. Within the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of, Revit had picked me up by that point, the clothing company, to do some development work for them. And was just kind of like starting to do, not my own thing, but like was starting to get a little bit of recognition. And I think, to be honest with you, KTM came on board the Sweet Lamb, and it was run by Mark, and me and Mark had a disagreement or a falling out, or, you know, that was kind of how it was. And it wasn't something that could have been at the time easily reconciled, I think, because Mark was strong-headed and had to protect his investment in KTM. Yeah. Understandably. And I was strong-headed and felt like I was being used. And I think kind of, you know, it was a disagreement. It was an unfortunate disagreement because we had a good friendship.
Yeah.
But it was one that led me to a lot more opportunities. And me and Mark, we didn't speak for like 2 years. You know, it was very raw for both of us. You know, it was very, very raw. And it wasn't a father-son relationship, but it was kind of one of those, you know, there was a mutual respect, and I know it hurt us both. And I didn't, you know, we didn't speak. And then when that Harley was unveiled at ABR, I managed to like catch him, because he was a Harley guy. And he couldn't ignore the fact that it was a cool motorbike. And that kind of patched the wound a little bit. And we managed to like talk through, in like, we both handled it wrong, and it was a shame, because we lost a good relationship and we made a good team. And like, I helped out with a lot with the KTM rally that they brought to the UK, and was beginning to kind of do the instruction or, help out. Like Mark was very careful of not calling people instructors because obviously KTM has their requirements that they require and stuff. But, that was beginning to do that. And I was already doing it for Sweet Lamb Adventure Academy or whatever it was. So, how that transition looked, it just, I don't want to upset anyone by saying the wrong thing on that one, but it was, we didn't handle it the best. Both of us were grown up enough to admit that, which I think sometimes it takes a lot, especially when that's a raw pain.
Yeah.
And, we kind of reconciled. And by that time I was already very much doing my own thing, and I wanted no part of what he was doing. And I genuinely wished him, the best. And it was reciprocated. And then like a month later I came over here, so it was quite a weird thing, but
it's true, isn't it? Like sometimes everyone says it, don't they? Time's a great healer, but sometimes you need to let time pass, don't you? You need to let wounds heal. You need to let almost time allows you to have a different mindset towards things and a different outlook towards things. And as you just said, often that change in your own outlook and your own appraisal of a situation can what's the word? Reaffirm or reestablish that sort of initial relationship you had with somebody.
I think it's where people are in their mentality as well. Because I'm a very different person with very different goals now than when I left for the US.
Yeah.
And I was a very, very different person with very different goals when I started like Rally Duck compared to then. And then when I was at Sweet Lamb, I was a very different person with very different goals. I wanted to be somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize like you can be like, for me at least, I can be whoever I want to be to everybody else. But if the people that really matter no longer respect me, then it's all for nothing.
100%. Absolutely.
And it took age and time and maturity and frankly some fucking big mistakes to figure that out, and you hurt people that you don't intend to hurt, and then you're like, well, why? And then you look back and you're like, oh, because I was a dick. So it's the head that was on my shoulders at 25, 24, 25, 26, whatever it was, is not the head that it is now. And I don't think it should have been either. You just gotta fuck up sometimes.
Absolutely. It's all about growing up. It's all about learning who you are as a person, isn't it? And what values you hold dear, what values you actually value. Like something for me, which I hope never changes for me, but something that's really become apparent to me, I would say, over the last decade, is for me, it's all about friends and family and my own personal integrity, if you know what I mean, in that I have to be accountable to me first and foremost, but also to those that I hold dear, whether that's family, friends. Like I can't. I'll say it from my end of things with my channel and my whole job now, the whole career now. I can't, or I won't put my integrity on the line for a financial gain, for example. Do you know what I mean? For me with YouTube, you could take on sponsors, you could take on sponsored content where they want you to say certain things about an activity, an item, not so much bike, because certainly as a bloke, you don't get paid for any reviews of bikes or anything like that. I know it does happen in certain sectors of the industry, but I've never had that. But I kind of realized that for me in my job, I have to earn the trust of my own community. And if I misplace that trust by perhaps saying, folks, this thing here, this is awesome. Spend your hard-earned money on this. It's amazing. They go and do that, and it's not. It's a bag of shit. They're never going to believe you in a month of Sundays, and your integrity is shot. You'll never get that back. So it's, for me, that is something that it's not only in like the YouTube world, in life in general. I really value that, and I kind of I only ever want to say what I think. Not to the extent where I'm going to be a dick about it. Do you know what I mean? But I don't see the point in. I can't lie. I'm a shit liar. So I just don't. And it took me a while to sort of figure that out. That's what I hold core to me now. You know, at 46 years of age now, I'm like, you kind of have to be true to yourself here. There's no point in trying to pretend you're something else. Or you just got to be you and go with it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way you've put that, because I think there was a period of time of my life where I was extremely selfish, and the problem with being selfish is that you don't realize it until you drive a lot of people away.
Yeah,
and that was around that time.
Yeah,
and it's taken me a long time to realize it. And I think I was continually pursuing this pursuit of like happiness and achievements, and then it's like, well, you don't even know what fucking makes you happy. And I don't want to be happy anymore. I want to be content, and there's such a big difference in that, because because happiness is it's a pedestal that is very easily snatched away from me. And now my happiness it's very affected by those I love. And if they're not happy, I'm not happy. So if I can be content in situations, it makes things a lot easier to process and deal with. And I don't spend my life unhappy because I'm trying to be happy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the resources that go into the lie of happiness along the lines of, you need this item and you need this thing and you need to go on this holiday and all that shit. It's for me, it's not true. It's the experiences and it's the positive impact I can place on people's lives because of motorcycles, frankly, that really affects me, and it makes me extremely content. And other things of that. That's what I try and get now.
Love it. And you're away to embark on the next stage now as well.
I know. Yeah. Little Sprog thing's coming. It's going to be terrifying. I am so stoked. It's, me and my wife, Jenna, we kind of talked it through, and, like, let's have a go, isn't it? And, it's so much more, so much more to it than you think. Like all these 16-year-olds that got pregnant in my school, and they figured it all out. But there's a lot more to it. So we were fortunate enough to fall pregnant early this year. It was funny because it's probably around the time that Seats was over. So cheers, buddy. We're having a little girl. So we're expecting her September time. Jenna's a little bit older than me, so they classify her as a geriatric pregnancy, which is fucking hilarious. And
how many times do you remind her of that?
About daily, and she tells me to fuck off daily too, and it's perfect. It's so good. It makes me that part of the relationship makes me so happy. So they may induce a little bit early, but I think like first, second week in September. So and then I met Jenna through motorcycles. Both, that's a big part of our life.
She's quite handy on a bike as well, isn't she?
Oh, she's not shying the throttle. Yeah, she's not shying the throttle at all. She's full fucking send everywhere.
Is that what it was? You were just like, that's the one for me, right?
I wasn't going to put a ring on something that couldn't hang, and yeah, she hangs and more. She spanks my ass down the ski slope for sure. It's just fucking awesome. It's I've never been so humbled as when I tried to follow her on a snowboard and absolutely shit my pants and was like, nope, not for me. So yeah, it's awesome. And then little girl. So she's going to be Cecilia, which can be shortened to CC. And then one of the two people that I really three people that I really idolized the way to ride a motorcycle around was Nicky Hayden. And his death is probably one of the most impactful deaths that I've gone through. And it was ridiculous. And I raided the track at Donington and grabbed hold of his fairing on his Ducati while he did a burnout. And yeah, he was my hero, is my hero. The way I try and slide the back end of the motorcycle is in part because of him.
Yeah, see them do it.
So Cecilia's middle name will be Hayden.
Oh, nice.
Which is
nice,
very,
man.
very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and Jenna was all about it, which is just awesome. And she grew up, an hour and a half north of where Nicky Hayden's from as well. So it's very, very cool. It's nice to have a kind of a bit of a full circle on that, which is cool.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Dude, how long have you got? That's an hour we've been bashing gums.
I've got another 2 hours.
Sure? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our appointment is at 2:00 my time. It's like 11:30 here. So
awesome. Right. How about there's loads I want to chat to you. Like you mentioned Rally Duck there. So there's loads I want to bring up, but we've got some questions to go through. Let's crack on then. Lovely job. Right. First off, we'll head across to Patreon, to the clan. So it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Patrick Collum. What's more intimidating, parenthood or riding into the parts unknown?
Parenthood. 100%. 100%. Parts unknown, I have a skill base that I've spent my lifetime developing that I can lean on. Parenthood, I have fuck all. I have a book and a load of people saying, you'll be fine. Yeah. That doesn't fucking help.
It is so weird. I was young. Not as young as some, but I just turned 21 when my son was born, and his mum and I, we were going out, we were living together, but we were both at uni. We were literally students at uni. I think we were both in our second year of uni when all of a sudden she fell pregnant. And I remember just, it didn't hit me until I think until the day he was born. And then bringing him out the hospital, I remember driving in my brother's clapped out old 1 litre Ford Escort that he'd given me. This thing was a shit heap. And I remember driving from Glasgow to our house, which was about 20 mile south of Glasgow, a wee village called, what was it called? Edenbridge? Was it Edenbridge? No, Eaglesham, that's where I lived. And I remember driving and just... like his mum and him were in the back of the car. And I remember just thinking to myself, holy fuck, I've got a kid. I've got a son, I've got a family now. And I'm like, I'm 21. It's like, I'm just going out and getting pissed. That's all. I was working as a bouncer in a club in Glasgow and not really going to uni, to be honest with you. I wasn't going. So I just remember thinking, holy fuck, I've got to grow up. And exactly what you said. How do you do this? What do you do? Yeah. And I remember that first 8 months to a year was the hardest thing I've ever gone through because it was just us. There was, we had no family really anywhere near us. And all of our mates were 20, 21-year-olds. They were all at uni getting pissed. Nobody had a kid that we knew. Yeah. And that's actually...
It's funny you said that because it's already sculpted our life. We're in Colorado at the moment and it's 17-hour drive from Jenna's family. And it's just us. When I worked at Triumph, we had one of the best company cultures I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing. Every company is like, we're like a family. But Triumph, it really was. It was amazing to be there. And we had an incredible support system. And then Atlanta's like 8 hours south of Jenna's parents, but we had a really, really good support system. And out here, we have nothing. We don't have any friends, really. Don't have any family or anything.
Where are you now?
We're in Colorado right now.
Colorado, yeah.
And it's a beautiful state. And we came out here as a couple because it's like there's snowboarding and dirt biking. It's going to be sick. And then there's a kid and it's like, fuck, we're not going to be able to do any of that. We are, but it's going to be very different how we do it. Yeah. So we've actually taken the decision to move back to Kentucky, back to where Jenna's family are, because then they can help. It takes a village, right? So
100%.
And that's the thing. It's I'm extremely excited, but now every decision I make can directly fuck something up that I really love and care about. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing I'm realizing is like every decision I'm taking is for Cecilia. She's not even fucking here yet, and it's already changing me. So yeah, it's extremely exciting. You know, a lot of people have done it, thankfully, but I know my skill set and I know my thing on a motorcycle, and I'm totally fine with going and sending it across the thing. But with a kid, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something else. It's something else there, isn't it, in your mind? And
yeah.
Yeah, I can. It's weird because I don't want to put the markers on anything. I don't want to bring it down here. Things didn't work out between my son's mum and I, so we ended up drifting apart. But you know, we get on fantastically well now. But my son grew up with me basically living in London and his mum in Glasgow, and he lived in Glasgow. And you know, it's weird that he's now a man. He's now 25, be 26 soon, and you know, it's like. I've not had that big input into his life, you know, like from about the age of 12, 13, I suppose. He didn't want to spend every month, you know, come down every month for a weekend to see his old boy, and he didn't want to do any of that. He didn't want to come down and spend all his summer holidays with me wherever I was. He didn't want to do that. So I ended up spending less and less and less time with him. And it's actually at the stage now where he's 25, 26, where he's like, you know, I think I'd quite like for us to go away and do something together. It's just because I don't think I even know you anymore, you know. And it's like, oh, fucking hell, that's my son saying that to me. And you're like, oh shit, right. So it's a weird thing in that I'm a dad, but I didn't have that whole family experience that I grew up with, you know, the one that you want your kid to have. So it's weird. People ask me for advice when they find out they're going to become a parent, and I'm like, I can't really give you the advice because I'm hopefully I've not had the experience you're going to have. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's a constant school day. It's just you're always learning, and I've never ever felt like I've nailed it.
That's my approach to most things. Is like I'll figure it out. I don't let myself fail.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. And also, there's not many people like me that make the decisions that I make. So there's probably even less that they're going to raise a kid like me, and for better or for worse. So I take advice on terms of like, fucking purifier do I need? You know, like what do I need on these? Like what do I need to do to make Jenna's life easier? Do this, don't do this. Cool, sweet. But outside of that, I've already read the baby books, and basically all they say is like, these are all the ways you're going to kill it. Just make sure you're there to pay for stuff. Sick. And you know, like there is a part that's just like, I'm just going to figure it out. But it does feel like the biggest decision in your life you have to wing. You know, then it's like there's an accepted unspoken element of winging.
Absolutely.
Which thankfully, that's what I've been doing since I jumped out the womb, is winging it and figuring it out. So we'll be fine.
Is there any other way?
Exactly.
Right. Cheers for that one, Patrick. Next one, Smoky Gun. Excuse me. Hi, Alad and Bruce. I'm only aware of your exploits thanks to the Teapot recommendation, but I've watched a few of the YouTube vids and I'm hooked. What an awesome adventure converting the Harley. So, based on the fact that you had to buy the old American-sized spanners to complete the job, here's my question to both Alad and Bruce. What's the craziest excuse you've ever given the missus to justify a bike part or tool purchase? As an example, my recent excuse for buying an extendable wrench that I didn't need but makes life easier working on the bike was that it would help if our kids ever got a puncture in their cars and couldn't get the wheel off. Okay. Craziest excuse for a bike part or tool.
Oh man, it's difficult because my wife rides dirt bikes. So she rides motorbikes and knows parts, and obviously when I immigrated over here, she had a bigger toolbox than me. I will say that I don't probably have a very good excuse for this one, because when we moved to Colorado, she actually turned to me and said, us moving to Colorado and you not buying a dirt bike is not an option, so go and fucking pick one.
Oh my God. I see why you married that woman.
Yep. And then she bought me a lowrider S for Christmas. So I don't really need an excuse to buy a bike part. I just say I want this, and we buy it.
Do you know how many bikers out there hate you at this current moment?
It's awesome, right? And she's smoking hot too. It's so good.
What
so
a dick.
happy.
Anyway, Alan, it'd be nice having you on.
Exactly. If I'm honest with you, probably any other relationship I was in where I wanted to buy motorbike parts, I just hid it from them. So, and they all failed. So there's probably a reason for that. So now I've got a wife that just buys me motorbikes instead. So
brilliant.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't really have an excuse to rationalize stuff.
I'm the same. Like I don't have that with my missus. My missus is just like, as long as we have a joint account that runs the house and all the bills, and there's an amount that you chuck in that every month. And as long as that's taken care of, and I'm covering my own bills, and I'm managing to put food on the table, which I plainly am, then she's like,
You've dropped some pounds there, though, bud.
I've been rowing. I have been rowing. Yeah.
It's been an impressive effort, to be fair to you, buddy.
That's very kind of you.
I know you're being humble and putting yourself down in a typical British way, but it has come off you, to be fair to you.
Do you know what? I haven't lost. Well, I think I've lost half a pound. I started at 20 stone 6 at the beginning of January.
Like here. It looks a big difference here, and kind of like on your chest as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that the shape's changed a bit, but my weight hasn't. I think I'm 20 stone 5 and a bit. So, I think I dropped to about 20 stone 2 at one point, but I'm back up about 20 stone 5.
But your fat to muscle ratio is probably shifted in a big way.
Do you know the biggest thing for me is I feel better myself. I was genuinely a bit concerned last year because I felt like death, like I felt like I was dying. I felt to every morning, I still feel shit in the mornings, but I felt like I had no energy. I felt really nauseous all the time. Everything hurt. It started getting to the stage where, it affects your mood. You just start feeling shit about everything. And I think I just got to the point where I was like, I think I know what this is. I don't think this is an illness. I think this is just, you're too fucking fat and you feel loathsome about yourself. You need to sort your life out. So I was like, okay, right, let's dig the rower out and let's get on with this. So, and it literally within a week, 2 weeks of rowing, 5 days a week, just getting on there, you get to that stage where, from like your rugby day, well, your gym day, when you're training in the gym and stuff, you get to the stage where you need it. You actually look forward to it. You don't want to do it, but you're like, I'm looking forward to how I'm going to feel after it. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
So thankfully, I'm at that stage. But then I was out cutting the grass last weekend because it's like a jungle out there, and I was away to empty the basket, with all the grass cuttings. And I'm walking down the garden, and we have this rescue dog that we adopted sort of during the COVID lockdowns and stuff. And she's beautiful, but she's a fucking idiot. And she digs. She just digs everywhere. So I'm walking through this really high grass, and I fell down a hole that she dug. And I genuinely thought I broke my leg. Like, have you ever I'm assuming you've broken bones before.
A few things, yeah.
Right,
unfortunately.
So I've broken both ankles, dislocated them. I've broken both legs. I know what that feeling's like. And I had that crunch, pop, instant warmth feeling. And I was like, I broke my fucking leg. I was literally on my back in the grass, like trying not to scream, grabbing my ankle, moaning. My wife was away. My wife was up north at her mum and dad's. So I'm home alone. And I was just like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? I had to try and stand up and hop all the way down the garden back into the house without killing my dog, and just literally whack a pack of peas on it for the weekend. As luck would have it, this is almost a week later, and as you can see, I'm okay now. I'm fine. But I tried rowing on it the other day, and it was just, I was basically rowing with one leg, and it's like, right, this Just give it the rest of the week.
Give it a bit more time. Yeah. Maybe get an ankle support strap and you'll be grand.
See, I used to do that at rugby because I played second row. You know, when you're jumping in the line out, when I'd land, once I did it once at rugby, once I like popped my ankle out once, it just kept going. And I always used to wear those like solid plastic like braces around your ankles. And that's probably the worst thing I ever did because I think it's weakened my ankle because my ankle will just pop out and in quite easily now. You know, like your shoulder can do it sometimes once you've done your shoulder. So I'm just going to leave this one now and just I'll be back on it Monday.
Get those resistance bands. If you get those, like, because Lidl or Aldi will do them, you don't need to buy the expensive ones. Get the resistance bands, and then I put it like around a chair leg, and then like if you're sat like that, I'll go like that way, sideways,
side to side movement. Yeah.
Gotcha. Because I did both my ankles, and I literally trained my ankles back to the point that they can change gear and use a rear brake. So if you see me walking in the morning, I walk like an old man, but I can change gear, so I don't really fucking care.
I've got like, I think it's my left leg. My foot is actually set at an angle like that. So if that's my shin coming down, my foot is set. So I basically walk on the edge of my foot because they set it wrong when it broke. And they said, "Oh, we'll have to re-break it and set it right." And I was just like, "No, you're not. Just no,
it hurts. I'm not doing that again.
I'm fine. Like, I just want to get this fucking cast off and get me back to normal life." So I think I was about 15, 16 at that point. So I've grown up walking on the edge of my foot. It's so weird now. Anyway, how did we get there?
I don't know. But was it smoking guns question? Apologies to him. I don't have a good story, but I do love his excuse that it's easier for you to change the tire. I think that's fucking brilliant. So good on you.
Right. He mentioned rally duck.
Yeah.
What is rally duck to those not in the know, the uninitiated? What is it?
Rally duck started as a piss take. It started out, obviously, as I touched on, I did some training for different companies and different people, and then kind of stepped away from that. And I'd just got a relationship with Revit as a development rider. And the guy from Revit, super, super nice guy, they're based out of the Netherlands. He was like, "Well, so what are you going to do?" I was like, "I don't know what do you mean? I'm not going to do anything." He's like, "No, you need to do something. You need to, you approach things differently. You need to do something." I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "What about like one-on-one training? Just like kind of just threw it out there and just got my head thinking." And he knew exactly what he was doing, but it just got my head thinking. And then I thought back to the way I trained, the way my dad taught me, and it was never like level 1, level 2, level 3. It was very much like, whatever you need, we're going to work on that today, and we're going to cater to the issues you have. Like you can be exemplary at high speed corners and then shit your pants when it comes to ruts. Like all these different things that no one rider has the same issues. They all have a hang up. There's similarities. But then I noticed kind of typically women riders will decide they want to learn to ride a motorcycle. They will learn to ride a motorcycle and then they will continue their training. So the level 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. works really well for them because they're progressing through it. Whereas most men are boneheaded and come to training once they've been riding for X number of years. So they could be a level 4 at some things, but then they're level 1 at other things. So they go and do a level 1 and they get nothing from it, say it's shit, never go back. Because they actually need to do level 2 or level 3. And schools, rightly so, need to make sure that you have the basics. So they have to start you at level 1. And it's just, for whenever you're catering to a class, it's not going to be tailor-made. It can't be. So it doesn't always, not everyone gets what they need out of that class. And I just thought one-on-one training, really not giving a shit about what you need, just making sure that you leave the day as a better rider. That's what I wanted to do. And that's what I decided to do. I did I created Rally Duck and I did it. I wanted it to be a bit of a brand, and I wanted it to be somewhere that people could get help. I wanted it to be no bullshit, no bravado. I just, if you were being a fucking idiot, you got told you were being a fucking idiot, but we got told you were being an idiot as you were being helped,
Yeah.
I didn't want people on there that kind of just ranted and raved about things and kind of didn't come from anywhere of knowledge. It was just like, well, I read this on this person's post and now that's my whole identity.
Yeah.
So made a Facebook group and had a lot of the guys in it that I'd raced with. So there was a lot. Everything was very quickly quantified. Everything was very, very quickly backed up. There was a very, very good level of knowledge in there without any bravado to help quash kind of issues around rallying and how to get into it and what you need and all this other stuff that really helped. And that's kind of how it started. And then I started training people and started helping them out doing that. Excuse me. And then just kind of wanted to change. Like I said, I wanted to make a bit of a name for myself, probably for wrong reasons, but my way of going about it worked. And then wanted to just kind of change people's thought process on the industry and the way they approached things and the way the adventure bike community felt a little bit stale for a period of time. And I just didn't feel like it was always a very friendly, fun place. It felt like you had to have fun in these parameters because that's how the TRF says you have to, or this, do you know what I mean? It felt like there was rules and regulations, and I'm like, fuck me, guys. Like riding motorbikes is fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it because it's fun.
100%.
And that's kind of how it started. That's why I called it Rally Duck, because it pissed people off. Like everyone, when I was going to call it Rally Duck, everyone said it was the stupidest name in the world. And then they saw the logo and everyone wanted a sticker all of a sudden, like it was very, very funny. And that's how I created it. And it had this community, and then we had like the training side to it. And then I did a couple of events, put on a couple of events just for shits and giggles. I did like the Horwood Moon Marathons, which I did, and it was very, very, very near to my heart for like a lot of reasons. Did that, and it really challenged people as well. And it ended up getting my job at Triumph and bringing me over here and everything else. So it was cool.
I had no idea that of that side of rally. In my head, Rally Duck was the Harley bike series you did with Ollie Moto. I had no idea that there was like a school
Rally Duck
instruction.
Harley. Yeah, the Rally Duck Harley was the last part of that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it had all of that. I set up a event called the Horwood Moon Marathons. So my dad's nickname was Moon because of Morgan the Moon. So his nickname was Moon. And then a little bit of a story to this, but basically me and my dad, like I was about 8 years old, we went to a race, like a local Hare and Hounds, and it was in 8 years old, I didn't know where it was. I didn't know anything about it. It actually turned out to be the forestry that I lived the closest to. It was the forestry that is the opening credits of the Harley build that you see me ripping around. It's that forestry. Yeah. And we'd walked down a hill and we stood there, and people were like just coming around the forestry corner. And I was like 8 or 9 and still not really interested in motorbikes. I liked them, but they still scared me. And I remember this guy coming around a corner on a bright blue. It was like first or second lap, bright blue, either YZ or WR426. Old school dirt bike. So it wasn't even a 450 by this point. It was like 2002 probably. And he was in all blue gear and he came around the corner and he was sliding. He was like, the back wheel was sliding. He was pretty much sliding to the stop. And I can't remember if he waved or not. Doesn't really matter to the story. But he came around the corner and went off up the hill. And I was like, that's the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. That guy is the coolest guy I've ever seen. And like, I want to do that. And then years go by, I was telling my dad, like, cause I was practicing sliding, and he was like, why do you want to slide so bad? And I told him this story, and then he like kind of didn't well up, but just like smiled at me. He's like, that was Mark. So my dad lost his best friend, who was Mark Horwood, who was the guy he rode with, exceptionally fast guy. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I've lost you, so I'm trying to pull it back up.
Oh, great. Sorry. I thought you were welling up, mate. I was just giving you a minute.
No, not quite. The time wasn't great. So yeah, he was like, that was Mark. That was the guy that, I used to ride with and, everything else. And his name was Mark Horwood. And I didn't know it was just some guy on a blue bike in blue gear. Mm-hmm. And then was like, okay, so the Horwood Moon Marathons was called Horwood Moon because of that. It was my dad and this other guy.
Yeah.
And basically it was an event that if you ever watch the Barkley Marathons on Netflix, it's a running race in Tennessee. And it's like 72 hours. You've got 12 hours to do a lap and you got to do 5 laps. And I did the same thing on a motorcycle. And it was literally designed because I was so fed up of people going out, riding a motorbike, taking, 60 pictures in the space of 3 miles and not doing anything else. Mm-hmm. And I was just so fed up of it. I was like, just shut up and ride the motorbikes, let's go and have fun with it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And set this up and it was nails. Like it was super, super hard. And it was designed, I didn't want anyone to finish it. I did it because I was like, I don't want anyone to finish it. I don't want anyone bitching about it. Let's just go and have a go. I pre-ran the trails and you did 12 hours. Whatever you did the lap in, the remaining amount was your time to rest.
Right. So
you set off at 9 a.m. and then you had to be back in by 9 p.m. and start the second lap. So if you did the lap in 3 hours, you had, 9 hours to chill out. But most people were doing the laps in 10 hours.
Jesus.
So they'd have 2 hours lap rest and then go back out. And
how far was a lap? Oh, it's a marathon.
200 miles.
Oh, Jesus Christ, right.
Yeah. Ollie actually did a video on it. There is a video on it on Ollie's YouTube. There's a video
I'll have
on
to
it.
Check that out.
It's fucking hilarious. It's so funny. Because it's fully in the hurt locker. And that was the point. It wasn't what I wanted it to be was when you finished it or you quit. I'm not going to make you quit. You quit. And then you know what you need to work on. It's a training. It's not there for likes and follows. It's not there for participation trophies. That's it. Mm-hmm. There was a Sprocket Spirit Award, which was some rebar and some old cogs on a chain that I welded together. Because my dog back in the UK was called Sprocket. So there's a Sprocket Spirit Award that went to the person that kind of embodied the event the most, but it wasn't a participation trophy and it wasn't going to someone that bitched about it. And I did it and Ollie filmed it and it's, no one finished it. It was a good crack. It was a good time. And I did that event and then I did it the second year. And then I came over here. I did Horwood Moon Marathons and then I did the Harley build as the final thing. I didn't know it was going to be the final thing, but that was the final Rally Duck project, basically.
Yeah. So how did you meet Ollie then?
But yeah, it started out. So I met, do you know Seats or know of Seats? Andrew Seaton is his name. He's that 990 guy on Instagram, but he's part of the Bodge Tape crew.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Super, super nice guy. I met him at Sweet Lamb doing an event. And we met each other and just instantly got on like a house on fire. And he had the Bodge Tape crew, which was Ollie, him, Al, and Whitey. And if you haven't seen any of their videos, they're super funny.
Yeah.
And then me and Seats got on like a house on fire and started hanging around and chatting a little bit and riding together. And then I met the rest of them. And I was very close with Seats pretty much instantly, but they all had pretty demanding jobs. So you wouldn't see them for, 6 months at a time or whatever. And they were down in Oxford and I was up in Mid Wales, which might have well have been Mars, So kind of didn't see him a lot. And then whenever I caught up with Ollie, always had a good time, but just didn't see him a lot. And then I literally had this stupid idea and was like, I think Ollie might be about this, and just had it on the couch, called him up and was like, would you be interested? And he was like, yeah, probably. I was like, sweet. And it was like a red rag to a bull, wasn't it? So 2 days later or 2 weeks later, whatever it was, I called him up and I was like, right, we're fucking doing it. Here's the bike. And he was like, oh shit.
So come on then, for anyone that doesn't know about this, what is this that you're talking about?
The bike?
Yep. And the whole idea behind it. So
the whole idea, again, Rally Duck was totally there to be tongue in cheek. It was there to be what anybody else couldn't be. or wouldn't be because they didn't want to piss off, sponsors, or it was just totally free. And Rally Duck was totally backed by me. All £3.50 on the website was coming from my pocket, so I had the total freedom to do whatever the fuck I wanted, because it wasn't my job. It was just my screw around.
Yep.
And it was around the time like adventure rallying was kicking off, and I was seeing on all these different websites and all these different Facebook groups, like people being like, no, you have to have a 450 Dakar and you have to run these tires and blah, blah, blah. I was like, fuck me. Like, you don't, no, you don't, you can have fun in it. Yeah. If you want to go and win the thing, you're probably going to have to be on a KTM 450. But if you just want to go and play with the thing, you can do it on what's in the garage, really.
Absolutely.
And I was just getting so fed up with people saying all this stuff. So I was like, I'm going to fucking show them. I'm going to show them you can do it on anything. So I called up the organizer and was like, can I do one of your rallies on like anything? Can I just make my own class? And he was like, yeah. Like, cool. And then hung up. Like, right, what am I going to do it on? Like, I had the green light that I can do it on something. I was like a 125 motocross bike would be funny. I was like, no, it's not stupid enough. It's still a very capable motorcycle. It's just a small CC. Now it's not stupid enough. And I was like, what about a Triumph Bonneville? Which is hilarious because this is before I got my job at Triumph. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, what about one of them? I was like, no, that still has like some prowess to it. Like it was originally an off-road motorcycle. Like it's not now, but like the thing is still there.
The answer's there, Aled. It's a GSX-R1000, surely. It's a GSX-R1000.
Yeah. I actually looked at an R6.
Did you?
I did look at an R6, but I just didn't think it would be comfortable for the rally. That was what clicked that idea.
I never had you down as being weak. God.
I know, right? Total pussy. So I was like, looking about it, and then I'd always fancied a Harley. I just could never rationalize one.
Yeah.
Always fancied one, and then was like, a Harley could work. And then I pulled up the geometry, like the specification of it, to see what the rake and trail is. And I was like, that could work. Because the rake and trail of a Sportster is the same as a KX500. And a KX500
really?
won Baja. So it won Baja like 6 times. So I was like, that could work. And then started looking into it. And like the great thing about Harleys is that everything's been done from. Any custom part that you could need for Harley, you can buy off the shelf, pretty much. Whereas an R6, not so much. Even if you just want
to do what?
Even if you want motocross pegs for an R6, nope. To put motocross bars on an R6 is a ball ache. Like everything is difficult. Whereas a Harley had already been done for different reasons, but it had already been done. So I was like, right, Harley might work. So I pitched the idea to Ollie to come film it because I knew it was going to be funny. And it was going to be kind of 2 fingers up to everybody of like, you can go do whatever you want. And it was also, there's so many people I meet that like, oh man, I wish I could. And it's like, well, you can. You just stop listening to other people's fears. Like you can do it. So yeah, bought a 1992 Sportster 883 off a lovely lady who was a grandma in Northampton. And it was like during COVID lockdown, so we weren't supposed to travel, but it was for work because Rally Duck was work. And I was working for the NHS at the time as well, so I took my like NHS badge and like ran over and picked the bike and come back, and then got the bike home, and then totally framed it, stripped it all the way down, and then it is a 1275cc Harley Sportster, and I built it all in my garage. Ollie filmed it all because there's 3 projects to this thing. Like Ollie's got to do all the filming, which if anyone's ever filmed is nails. And then I was building the thing, and then I'd set up my tripod and try and film it because obviously Ollie was down in Southampton, I was in Mid-Wales, so I'd film that bit, and then he'd have to edit it all and everything. And then the third project was like actually getting all that together. So I did probably 90% of the build on it. And then I had 3 friends. Seats came and helped me with the wiring. There's a guy called Kev who builds race bikes, like old school race bikes. He came and helped me with a couple of issues I was having and helped me put the cranks back together because I didn't have the tool to do that. And then Dan up in the Lake District fabricated the triple clamps and a couple of bits for the rear wheel. And other than that, everything was done in my garage. So yeah, stripped it down, framed it, and then built it back up to a 1275, 125 brake horse at the rear wheel, 385 pounds soaking wet, fully FIM rally compliant Harley Davidson Sportster. And it has 12 inches of travel, and it has a 37.5-inch seat height. So it has 2 inches more travel than its KTM 1090, and it has a 3-inch taller seat height. It puts out 15 more brake horsepower, and it weighs 40 pounds less.
It is a fantastic looking bike. It genuinely, that is one cool ass looking bike. You got to be happy with that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's the first bike I ever did, and I just tried my best, you know.
Wow.
And I watched like Overhaul and on the Discovery Channel and like American Chopper and all that shit, and they make it look so freaking easy. And I was like, I can do this. I was like, this is not easy.
I'm looking at a picture of it now while I'm chatting to you, and it's just such a good looking bike.
Yeah, it's. I knew how I wanted it in my head, and I really kind of spent the time on like the artistic side, you know, like really making sure that it still looked like a Harley, because a lot of the Harley Dirtsters don't. They look like a Sportster that someone's bolted a dirt bike front end to, whereas I wanted it to look like a Harley dirt bike, you know? So really spent the time making sure the lines worked and making sure all the Cerakote black matched and all the chrome matched, and like the tank still had the Sportster drop, because like the tank had to carry the correct capacity to go rally. Mm-hmm. So we couldn't just put a Sportster tank on it, so we needed to fabricate the tank. And then I needed the seat to be like a dirt bike seat, but I still needed it to look like the Harley line. You know, every motorcycle has certain characteristics of lines and sounds that make that bike. You know, you hear a Ducati start up and you know it's a Ducati, and you see it go by and you know it's not a Honda, it's a Ducati, even though it's the same red. So I wanted that to be that with this Harley. I wanted it to be like, that's a Sportster, but it's not a fucking Sportster. Like, And the proof in the pudding of it. So Harley Davidson UK lent the bike once I completed it. It was on the Rally Duck stand at ABR, and then Harley Davidson UK asked it to go on their stand with the same, like when they were launching the Pan America. So it went on the stand of the Pan America, and then quite a few people came up to my bike because they put it in the back and they walked straight past all the Pan Americas to my bike and were like, "Is this the new Pan America?" And Harley were like, "No."
I know which one I'd rather have, mate. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, it is the scariest motorcycle I've ever ridden. Is it? It was fucking terrifying.
Have you got it have you got it stateside?
I've not got it here. It's in my dad's garage under a dust sheet.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah, we will pull it over here. Like once you stop moving around and get things settled in. Cause I was originally coming here for 3 months, but like, once we get settled in, I will, I'll get it over. But yeah, there's 4 people that have ridden it. That's it. And there is qualifications to ride it. You know, not written down qualifications, but like for me, like not just anyone can ride it. You know,
I get that.
It's pretty scary.
Folks, if you want to see this incredible journey the lads went on with this, and you want to see the whole story and how it unfolded, head to Olimoto's YouTube channel. There's a whole playlist there. I think there's 7 or 8 episodes, 9 episodes.
14.
Like is it 14? Sorry,
it's 14. Yeah.
There's a long time. It's genuinely, I've had Ollie on the podcast and I've chatted to him. I genuinely think it's one of the best motorcycle series out there. Never mind just on YouTube. It's fantastic.
I really appreciate that, because there was a lot that went into that. You know, there was a lot of sacrifice from both parties. You know, there's neither of our efforts should be undersold to the others. You know, there was so much effort in building it, and there was so mumuch effort in making the series. And without either of us working, it just wouldn't be the same result. And it was, you know, it was like a 40-year-old marriage for me and Ollie by the end of it. You know, we were sick of each other, and we'd had arguments and all that stuff. And then we kind of stepped back and was like, actually, it's pretty fucking cool. Yeah. But the reach it hasn't received was heartbreaking. Because I think it's pretty cool, and I'm pretty harsh judgment on what I think is cool, but I think it's pretty cool.
I know all about that.
Nothing else.
It's infuriating, isn't it? When you have that connection with a bit of content and you think to yourself, this is fucking good. You know, like this, you try to take yourself out of it and just look at it objectively and you go, this is fucking good. This will do well. And then it doesn't attain what you thought, hoped, wanted it to attain.
3,000 views on some of them. I think it's
which is criminal. It's fucking criminal, because you look at some of the shite that is on YouTube and social media and getting hundreds of thousands of views. And I'm like, half the time it's just fucking titillation bollocks. It's just shit. Or it's some autonomous edited bit of content off of a fucking GoPro app or Insta360. And you're just like, come on.
And that's the thing. It's like it's so real.
Oh,
we didn't hide anything. It's properly two idiots, two buddies, building a bike and actually producing something pretty damn cool, and then the video producing something cool as well.
Yeah.
And at not any point do we Hollywood it. It's like you see me pour petrol down my armpit in the first fucking episode because I forget to turn the fuel off. Do you know what I mean? Like every point, it's just like it is total calamity, and we still managed to produce something that I'm very proud of.
So it should be.
But yeah, it was a shame it didn't get the traction I felt it kind of deserved. The bike itself is cool.
I said this to Ollie. I think that is going to be a slow burner. I think at some point that is going to pick up traction, and it will go once. Yeah. But it needs that initial push. Yeah. And I was hoping, not blowing my own trumpet, but I was hoping getting Ollie on the podcast. Podcast doesn't get massive views, but obviously my teapot side of things does quite well. It's got a good reach, and I was hoping that by getting him on the podcast and getting it out there, it could get that initial push, and then the YouTube algorithm would go, oh, hang on, people are showing an interest into this, and start chucking it out to the rest of my audience and people that we'll look at other motorcycle channels, and but it just didn't seem to do it. It's like, fuck. So, folks, down below, if you're listening to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching the video, have a look at the vid description, and there'll be a link to the Rally Duck playlist. Watch it. I mean, if you're not hooked with the opening 5 minutes, it's probably not going to be your cup of tea.
But the opening 5 minutes is me sliding around in the forest and then telling you we're doing a Harley build.
It's mint. It's mint. I remember watching it, and literally I wrote off the rest of the day. I sat and watched everything back to back.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
series.
It's awesome. I think I went back and watched it once.
Did you?
I like, because he'd send me like when we were first bringing them out, it was like every Friday I think they were coming out. Kind of watched them then, but like episode 1 dropped and it was still just a rolling chassis in my garage, and it was like, oh fuck, like I've got to get moving. I was working for the NHS, and it was during the mass vax time. So I was putting in, 10-hour days at the NHS roughly, and I'd literally come home and I'd spend another 7 to 8 hours in the garage every day getting the thing built. And I know Ollie was doing similar timelines on the editing. So I never really got to like enjoy it, because every time I'd finish watching an episode, I'm like, fuck, it still looks like that. And there's another one coming out next week. I got to get busy.
I get that.
So I watched it back once just to kind of be like, oh yeah, we did do that, and oh yeah, that did happen, and that was pretty funny. So, but yeah, it's nice to hear people enjoy it still.
I still get people chatting to me about it, saying, I knew nothing about it till they heard about it in the podcast and stuff, and they're just like, it's fucking amazing. Everyone's of the same opinion. It's like, why is that not got hundreds of thousands of views?
That's good. It's good to hear. It was produced for people to enjoy, so that's ultimately it's to like get people thinking, could I do something similar? You can, like, because that's in the video you see, I literally go and buy the right wrenches and like I have to figure it out. I built that entire bike. I built off Haynes manual and YouTube videos, the entire thing. I'm just figured it out.
Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah.
Right. David Clegg. Hello, Alan. Hello, Bruce. Cheers for the Rally Duck series link. Me and my blokey Ian really enjoying watching the HD conversion. Not quite got through to the end yet, though, but huge admiration for the work you guys put in. Great entertainment, too. Cheers, Debbie.
You timed that one perfect, didn't you?
I did, didn't I? I did that. Do you know, as we were chatting about it, I was scouting down because I could see rally duck in the opening sentence, and I was like, oh shit, what are they asking in the next one? Because I really should pre-read the questions, but part of me doesn't want to, just to keep it.
It's much more fun to do this.
Yeah, because it's a real reaction then, isn't it?
100%.
Question, please, to Alid. What is commercial diving? I've never heard of it.
It is getting paid money to sink and breathe. Basically, any construction site role is typically required under the water. So any if you think inshore, anything that has happened to form the bridge on top of the land that you see has had to happen underneath. So bricklaying, shuttering, concrete pouring, all of that has had to happen under the water as well. Sometimes when it's initially built, not as much because they'll dry dock it, but then in terms of like running repairs, they won't block off the water and let you repatch up the bridge. So an idiot like me on the end of a string jumps in and concretes it back up.
What sort of depths did you work at?
I have been in canals where if I was drowning, I'd stand up. And I have been down to over 1,000 feet down. So all the way, all across the board.
Shitting me, 1,000 feet down. How long did that take you to get back up? You have to decompress, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 27 days. There's a bit of time. There's not a lot. This is where Harley ideas come up because you've got a bit of time to think.
You literally just have to sit in the decompression chambers, don't you?
Yeah.
For days.
Yeah. So you're not wet. You're not under the water, but so they ship you back and forth. But that's kind of you're at pressure and they bring you back up.
Have you watched The Last Breath?
It's fucking terrifying, but it's very good. It's very, very good. But yeah, it's good.
Did you know about that story before you saw the film?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a very, very good story. I think it's on Netflix, isn't it?
I think it's Netflix or Amazon. Yeah.
If anyone hasn't watched it, I wasn't doing that all the time. But if anyone wants to watch it, and it's true, it's true. It's 100% real life. Yeah.
Which makes it even more insane.
Yeah, and the guy's being interviewed on it, so it's bang on. But it's very, very good. It's about a diving accident. I won't tell anyone else anymore because to go watch the film, it's a lot. It's worth an hour and a half of your time rather than sitting there and watching, Come Down With Me, throw that on.
Do you know, I was going to explain it, but I think you've done the right thing there. You need to watch it, folks. Just find it. It's called The Last Breath. It's a diving accident,
and the humanity that involves in tragedy is very well calculated.
Totally. The guy should not have survived. I mean,
no.
I think a lot of people. Yeah, good. Actually, yeah. Spoiler alert: he survived. Well, yeah, but you said he's being interviewed, so he plainly did.
That's pre, though, wasn't it?
Before he had the accident.
Exactly. Yeah. So what
Tell us about the accident. Now we're going to go and kill you. Yeah, it's called The Last Breath. Just watch it. Amazing. Also, random question to both. If you were a cartoon character, who would you be? One that's already created or a character you could create yourself? Wishing you both a happy chat and success with all you continue to do. Okay, so cartoon character.
Daffy Duck. 100%.
What is the duck fascination?
They can swim, they can walk, and they can fly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If you're not happy with it, you can either run, swim, or fly away from it and then shit on people. Fucking awesome. Fucking best animal. Best animal in the world. But yeah, and Daffy Duck's just awesome.
But you'll get some fuckwit in camouflage shooting your ass as you're flying around trying to,
That would be where the shitting part comes on them.
Okay. Right, okay.
And also,
I'd like to be go on.
Well, people always want to choose a badass thing, but they're picked on just as much as a duck. If you think would you want to be like the Serengeti, lion with the big fuck off mane that everyone's going to pick on and try and scrap with and then maybe shoot? Or do you just want to be a normal ass duck going about his business, just flapping away and then landing in nice, pretty places? 100% I want to be a duck.
Yeah, but people still shoot at you being a duck.
People are assholes, though, aren't they? People shoot at you over here as well. So I'm human enough to get shot at over here. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. I think I'd quite like to be Bruce the shark from Finding Nemo.
Fish are friends.
Yeah. Fish are our friends, not food.
You're going to have to get the hook in the lip now.
Give me a minute. It's like Jackass.
Exactly.
Right, nice one. Cheers for that, Davey. Right, what time are we at? Blimey, mate, that's 2 hours we've been at this. Are you okay for another wee bit? Sure.
Yeah, top if man. People want to listen to me, I'm going to keep talking.
Well, in that case, see you. Nice to chat to you. Right, cheers for that one, folks, over on Patreon. We'll head to Instagram now, which is at TeapotOne Insta. Do you want your social links advertised?
Yeah, fireman. Yeah.
Lovely. All right. So again, folks, if you listen to the podcast, check out show notes. If you're watching the vid, look at the vid description. All Alad's links will be down there. So we'll head to first one. At Z1KW Enderer. Z1000 Wanderer. What's harder? Hard enduro.
That sounded painful, bud.
Yeah. Took me a while to figure it out, didn't it? Say what you see. It's like catchphrase.
It is.
What's harder, hard enduro or supercross, and why? And your missus has basically said, are you trying to start a riot, man?
Yeah, she's right on that as well. Oh, man.
Is this a big debate amongst you sort of off-road lunatics then, is it?
I think it's the same as any sport. Everyone wants to be the tougher or the harder or the, or all that shit. Hard enduro is proving very popular, and I kind of have an opinion on hard enduro that usually pisses people off.
What is it? What is hard enduro then?
Hard enduro is effectively trials at speed. So it's very, very technically difficult. And the emphasis for me on that part would be technically difficult. The skills to go and do hard enduro, you need to be able to like pop the front wheel up and stoppy and, do pivot turns, and all this stuff is very, very technically difficult. And then they add in an element of speed to it to call it a race,
Right.
It's like Erzberg and Romaniacs. It's all that sort of stuff. If you haven't seen it, go and watch one of them. And that's what hard enduro is. It's gnarly. And the top boys
start on speed then. Yeah.
Exactly. 100% on cocaine, speed and meth. The top boys at it, like any top athlete in any sport, are a different breed. So I tend to kind of separate away from them. I'll say supercross is harder because hard enduro is hard, but if you're a semi-competent trials rider, you can do hard enduro. Whereas supercross, if you're a decent motocross rider, you will not stand a chance of going around a supercross track. You won't even get round.
What's supercross?
Supercross is a motocross track squished into a stadium. And
that's the one that's big in America when they do all the big jumps and
Exactly, yeah. So just because of the technical ability and because it's so compressed, they are landing. Their contact patch to land is usually about 6 inches at third, fourth gear off 120-foot triple, and they're landing in 6 inches and taking off. So it's that for me, you take the top guys away from it because the top guys are good at anything. You put Billy Bolt on a supercross track, he's going to be fine. You put a good supercross rider around the hard enduro track, he'll be okay. He won't compete like they will, but Billy Bolt wouldn't beat supercross, I'd argue. Some people would, but I don't think they would. But your average guy could wobble around a hard enduro course, and because sometimes they just walk the bike and all that sort of stuff. Whereas supercross, you could roll every single jump, but to actually do what they're doing, I just don't think it's the same capability personally.
Okay. I hope you're going to be reading the comments on this one because you've probably started a war.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's well worth it. It's fishing.
Right. Next one. HB2 Mav. I took that first picture and I'm the clothed one in the fifth picture. That's the one with the naked guy chasing the biker. I thought it was you. I thought you were the one on the bike.
I took the photo.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And the naked guy is Tim. He's the guy that sings the Wrecking Ball in the full HD.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He likes getting clothes on.
We all know somebody like that. We've all got that, mate. Another one from Z1000 Wanderer. Okay, last one. Is there any real psychology around avoiding training with slower riders when you are training for racing or rallying?
Um, yeah, yeah. It's riding with slower riders versus training with slower riders needs to be differentiated, in my opinion.
Okay.
If all you do is train, the fun comes out of motorcycling, and everyone follows their riders like Johnny Ray and all that, and all those boys do is train because they're getting paid to do it. They have to train.
Yeah.
We're not, we're not getting paid to train. We're not getting paid to ride. So you need to keep it fun. So riding with your buddies, if they're slower, or riding with slower riders so you can do new trails and stuff is important. You shouldn't kind of speed dictate, but if you're going to train and you're riding with slower riders, you will ride slower. You will not be pushing your envelope. So your envelope in terms of fitness will slow down. Your line choice will slow down because the line that you're taking at speed will not work at slower speed. If you think about your tipping point, that alters, your apex alters, everything alters. And then you get used to that. And then when you have to push that 6 foot deeper and that's, that 10 mile an hour harder, it's scary again.
Yeah.
So you're kind of always in your comfort zone. You're never learning how the bike reacts when it's out of control. Because you're always in control because you're riding slower. And your fitness suffers because you're not riding faster and harder. You're just riding at their pace, which you can do all day. You're not pushing, you're not developing. So if you're going to, I always trained by myself and then would use the races to pace off. And then once you've done a race or two, where you're slower, what you need to work on. And the psychology of that is an important one. Like everyone's like, I need to beat him. He beat me by 10 seconds. And it's like, but what is 10 seconds? Is it 10 seconds in a minute? Was the whole race a minute long and he beat you by 10 seconds? Or was it 10 seconds over 7 hours? So did he beat you by 60%? Is he 60% quicker or is he 2% quicker? Because now you know how to be faster. Now you know how to train quicker because you don't need to beat him. You need to be 3% quicker and you beat him. That's it. That's all you need to do. So if you're riding with slower people, you're never going to get that. You're never going to be 3% quicker because you're riding slower.
No, I get that. Makes sense when you say it like that. Absolutely. I think that's the difference, I think, between me and you.
I can't enjoy anything. I can't enjoy anything. Like if I go and watch Supercross, I'm looking what lines they take and I'm watching how they do things because I want to do it. I want to know it. I am the guy that has always taken things apart to figure out how they work and put them back together. That's me. I started, my wife's a big Baltimore Ravens football fan here, American football over here. She's a big fan. And she's exceptionally knowledgeable on baseball. Very, very knowledgeable. She played softball to a good level and is very knowledgeable on baseball. Football, she just enjoys watching. I watch football and watch it how I watch rugby. And I'm like, why the fuck are they doing this? Why are they doing that? I watch it and I have to watch it. And we kind of had an argument because I'm like, they're going to run the ball again on first down. They run it every time and it doesn't work. And she looks at me and because it's obviously her team. And she's like, do you think you can do any better? And I'm like, yeah, don't run the fucking ball. And then they ran it for the next four first downs. They ran it again. She looks at me and she's like, just had to say it, didn't you? Like you couldn't just enjoy the stinking game. And I'm like,
you just ruined it for me.
Yeah. And it's like, why can't I just enjoy the game? Why can't I just watch it for what it is? But I have to break it down to see how they're doing it because then I can figure it out.
So you've got a very analytical mind about everything then, do you? Are you like that with everything? Or just things that you...
Things I care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you put me in an English room and tell me to analyze a book, I couldn't give a shit.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha.
How engines work and how certain people do certain things, I like knowing how it works.
I'm like that. I'm very selective with that. But if there's something I pick up on, I'm all in on it. Like literally, I'll buy the t-shirt, I'll wear the hat, I'm everything on that. Yeah. But I find I'm not like that with many things anymore. Like even riding a bike. Like I think I'm just at a stage riding motorbikes where I just really ride them on the road, or even when I'm on the track, I know where my limits are and I'm happy just within those limits. I don't feel any any impulse to push anymore.
Yeah.
Like I always used to, and now I don't, because I think I'm older and I've crashed a lot and I've hurt myself a lot, and it costs a lot of money. And now it's my job, and I'm like, well, if I can't ride a bike, I'm fucked, because I need this in my job. So I'm very comfortable at that. But I'm like that with editing. I find myself now I find myself watching YouTube videos or films or the TV. I watch it and in my head I'm breaking down, oh, how have they done that cut or that transition? Or like you start picking up on little continuity issues, where you're like, oh, well, I can tell they filmed that before this bit or after this bit, and then if to make it into the story, and you're like, oh, okay, I find I'm like that with only a few things.
It's the little things. Is what the difference is, though.
Yeah.
The subtleties, and I think that's the difference. And like with motorcycling, like I hadn't raced for a time and came out here and went and did a race. And I actually filmed it because I wanted to like send it to my dad and so they could do that. So it's like a first race back in like 3-4 years. And it's a hare and hound, which I never did very well anyway. And it absolutely killed me. And I remember like a couple of guys came past me in the class above me, and I was like, I want no part of it.
Yeah.
Like I want no part of it. I want nothing to do. I know what they're having to do to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I want no part of it.
Mm.
So I'm not even doing it to like race anymore. I don't really want to race anymore. I've raced what I raced, and I'm happy with how I did it, and I'm very proud of what I achieved. But I still love knowing how I do it, because the other part of that is like I might be able to help someone, because I am good at that part, and I am good at spotting what people are doing. My dad was very good at it and passed it over to me. So now if people came to me for training or wanted a little bit of help, or, if like Cece wants to learn to ride a motorbike, I can take them to kind of whatever level they want to do, because I am a student of the sport and always will be. And it doesn't have to be for me. I just love knowing, like, how the fuck is he doing that? Like how it's not just twist throttle and close your eyes. There's so much more to it than that. And how are they doing it? And then when you start breaking it down, I just become obsessed. So
love it. So are you already doing the tuition and training side of things stateside?
No. So because of working with Triumph has their adventure experience over here, which is run by Jeff Stanton. And I did it mostly to give back, and because it was extra money, being frankly, I didn't have a lot of money back in the UK, and now here it's not so much of an issue. And I love not having to go and do it. And I don't want a conflict of interest with Triumph, which it could potentially be. And I love the role I have with them at the moment. And I get a lot from that, and I still get to impact people. So no, it's not. I haven't done it. What becomes Rally Duck? Don't know. But it was a great run for 3 years or whatever it was.
Yeah. Right. There's still loads more questions here, but since we've sort of moved into that area, let's hit it. How did you go from like Aberystwyth, Wales, to the States? How did this happen?
So I kind of was in a spot that I realized I needed to change, the whole like happiness, contentment thing. Me and Jenna were already talking. We were like talking via Instagram.
Whoa, rewind. How did this happen then? I'd always assumed. Yeah. Slid into the DMs. Yeah.
I slid into the DMs and she ignored me. And then I slid into them again and she ignored me. So I was like, well, fucking ignore this then. So I tagged her in a photo.
Right.
I tagged her in a photo.
Photo of what, Alid?
It was Revit clothing.
Okay.
It was because she was sponsored by Revit. So it was Revit clothing and I tagged her in it. I was like, fucking ignore this. And she couldn't. So I was like, got her. So yeah, we were talking and it was very kind of just friendly talking. It wasn't anything else for a long, long time. And then the one thing I will say is I can talk for Wales when it's like on my terms, but but I very much enjoy my own peace and quiet as well.
Yeah, I get that.
Whereas whenever Jenna messaged me, I never like found myself rolling my eyes. I was always like excited. I always wanted to talk to her. So that was a good clue. But I was working for the NHS and I had Rally Duck, and Rally Duck was doing really well. And it was, the Harley build had kind of wrapped up. And I realized I needed to make a change to try and do something different, and it couldn't be a small one because the UK is too small. So I was kind of like, I've always fancied going to America and seeing that. And I just finished the mass vaccination project for the NHS. I'm a project manager. So I just finished that and I was exhausted. And I was like, I need to do something different. And you can get an ESTA, which is like a visa waiver program to come over to the US. So I put in for that. And I was like, I'll just go over for 3 months. I'll just go over for 3 months and just have a break. I was selling my house. I put anything in storage, but basically I had a Sprinter van, which had a dirt bike in the back, motorcycle gear, and like 3 boxes of, keepsakes. That was it. Everything else I'd thrown away. Because I was just like, I want change. And then COVID was still happening. So I flew to Cyprus. By this point, me and Jenna had already agreed to like meet up and, see what could potentially happen. So I flew to Cyprus and had to quarantine in Cyprus for 14 days before I was allowed to come into the US, because it was still when this like ban on America was happening. So did that for 14 days. And then when I was in Cyprus, they changed it that you couldn't fly through Europe. You had to be, even if you'd transferred through Europe, you weren't allowed on American soil. So the only place in Europe that they fly out of to Cyprus was Dubai. So I had to fly from Cyprus to Dubai, and then I caught a flight from Dubai to JFK. And then we were meeting in Boston. So I caught a train from Boston from JFK to Boston. Yeah. And then we met and got on like a house on fire, and it was awesome. And obviously it's working pretty good because she's having a kid now. So like that was that part. And then she lived again in Kentucky and I was up in upstate New York, and I talked to a guy that ran an event, and I was just we rode the event together, and then I was just going to help him out a bit and kind of travel around and see what happened. So did the event, and then I was kicking around in New York, went to this other event that he did, and then Triumph motorcycles were there. And they had like all of the demo rigs and everything. And I got talking to a guy there. We'd already emailed because we were borrowing bikes at this other event. We were borrowing Triumphs. And then Jenna, backpedal a little bit, Jenna rode the bike that is in all our photos when we borrowed it for Triumph. And then I ended up buying that bike, and it's the bike that's still in our garage, which is very cool. But I spoke to Adam, who was the marketing director, spoken to him, but never really met him. So I wanted to like go and thank him for the bike. So I was at this other event, went and thanked him, like found him and thanked him. And then that was it. And I was working the event. And then whatever they needed, it was my job to kind of get them. So, they needed a bit more water, or they needed some weights for their tent or whatever, I just get their stuff. And then it was a 5-day event, second or third event. Third day, Adam messaged me. He was like, "Hey, do you want to go grab a beer? Just to catch up." So we went and grabbed a beer, shot the shit for like an hour and a half, however long it was. And then at the end of it, he was like, "I've got a position available." And I was like, I didn't. And he was like, "Well, would you be interested?" I was like, "I don't know how it works with my visa or an S and that sort of stuff." And he was like, "We can figure that bit out." I was like, "Okay." So then 6 a.m. the next day, he messaged me. He was like, "Hey, you up?" And I was like, "I'm already here working. Like I'm already, getting taken care of stuff." And he's very, very like shy, like quiet guy, super, super awesome dude. But pretty quiet. Didn't say anything else, just sent me the link to the job. So I was like, okay, that's a pretty good hint. Yeah. So applied for the job and went through all that. And the job was experiential marketing specialist, which is basically go to events, set the events up, tell people motorcycles are cool, ride around in circles, come on, basically. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's the general.
Where do I sign? Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So got accepted for the job. And then just to put it into perspective, the like pay difference in America, I was a band 7 in the NHS, running, like doing the project management, setting up the vaccination centers, like pretty high stress, high level job. And I got half of my salary on top to go and ride motorcycles in circles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just to put it into perspective, the difference of like UK to America, that's a big one. So got accepted the job and then moved down to Atlanta, and that was 2 years ago. Like I literally flew over here with a bag of riding gear and a bag of clothes, and haven't been back since. So then flew all over the country and got to have some like truly amazing experiences, and got to like share them with Jenna, and got to have some stuff. It was a very, very cool job, but there was a lot of travel involved, and a new relationship, new marriage with that much travel is a strain. And then we started talking about wanting to be parents, and it just wasn't realistic. So then I got a job opportunity back in healthcare as a project manager, and that best part tripled my salary that I was getting for Triumph. So it wasn't that much of a decision.
Yeah.
And obviously that put us in a position that we could now become parents quite comfortably and be secure. And I went and spoke to Triumph and explained, and Adam, again, is a family man and a very, very good friend and a very, very good human. And he like totally understood, but I had, thankfully, my ability on a motorcycle was good enough that they wanted me to still ride for them. And I also knew how to run the events. So they asked, would I be interested in still kind of doing demos for them and leading rides out? And then, if there's, motorcycle industry people that need a good fast ride out, could I lead them for that for Triumph, which was extremely humbling and an extremely awesome moment for the kid that was scared of motorcycles. That literally learned to ride them so he could hang with his dad, to have the might of Triumph America say, can you come ride for us and tell people that bikes are cool? As I was like, when they didn't have to, like they wanted me there and they paid me as a contract to come and do that. I was like, fuck yeah, I'll do it. It was very cool to like, call my dad up and say, hey, motorcycles are the reason my mortgage is going to be paid. And then now they still want me to come and tell people bikes are cool. It was a very, very cool thing. So I get to pick the events I do. So I think me and Jenna comes and does it too, which is awesome. I think we're doing 6 events this year. So she's going to be like 7 months pregnant at Sturgis Rally, showing telling people that bikes are cool, and we'll be going around in circles. So it's very, very cool thing to be able to do.
Has that registered with you, what you just said? You're going to be working at Sturgis Rally for Triumph America.
I did it. So I did it this last year. I did Daytona Bike Week.
Oh my God.
I did Sturgis Bike Rally. I was at COTA for the MotoGP for Triumph.
You shitting me?
Yeah, I was there for Triumph. The experiences, like that whole year was every motorcycle American bucket list I could tick off. I was at Daytona Supercross. I was at the Daytona 200. I went to Anaheim 1. Everything that I kind of wanted to go and do motorcycle wise, I went and did. I rode a motorcycle in like 42 states in a year.
Jesus.
And just literally it was different when it was my full-time job. Like now I literally fly in with my helmet, my gear bag. Uh-huh. I fly in, pick up a hire car or get picked up, drive to the event, jump on a brand new Triumph, adventure bike. So 1200 or 900 or Scrambler, go and ride for a few hours and find a cool route, and then take people around it for 3 days. And then at the end of each day, I'll usually take out like an industry person that wants to go for a fast ride and literally get to spank the living shit out of a dirt bike, not a dirt bike, like an adventure bike.
Yeah.
As fast as they'll ride, come back in and then fly out. I get paid to do it. It's
but are you happy? Again, are you happy?
Very content. Yeah, and then I had a couple of other manufacturers reach out. I had Ducati USA reach out yesterday and ask would I be interested in it, and it's extremely humbling, and it means a lot. It's because it's not that brand is trusting you to represent them. They're trusting you to ride well enough that people are going to have fun. They're trusting you to ride safe enough, and then they're also trusting you with the helmet off to talk about the bike and represent them. And that is a part of that I do not take lightly. And it really does mean a lot to me when someone trusts me enough to do that with my ability and my speaking. Thankfully it's not writing because I'm dyslexic as fuck, but speaking and writing, they trust me enough to do that. And it never will be something I take lightly, because it always means a lot to me. Especially because I did it because I wanted to hang with my dad, and I wanted my dad to be proud. That was it. So it's cool. Very cool.
What a story. That's awesome. I love that about the States. Right. People like to ridicule the States for lots of different reasons, don't they? And I'm not saying they've got everything right, but I do think in the States, they value, they put value on someone who's good at something to an extent where, like in the UK, you know what the UK motorcycle industry is like. It's a very little close-knit little bubble, and they're opening the doors slightly, but it's predominantly, it's the journos, it's the PR teams. They all know each other. Yeah. Everybody just goes from one job to the next job within that little bubble. In America, it just feels like there's a lot more opportunities over there. In the
100%,
they recognize achievement. They recognize like someone's will to do something or accomplishment. Someone that's accomplished something. Yeah. They're open to it.
You summed it up really well there. They recognize people that are fucking trying.
Yeah.
They really recognize that. They recognize will. They recognize talent, and they recognize that talent is not always connected to experience. And that's a big one. In the UK, I felt it was like, you haven't been 20 years times surge, you don't know shit.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And in America, it's like, I don't care what you can do or what you're telling me you can do, show me. And if you go out there and you shred and you can do it politely, cool. You on job? It's that simple. And I also think America's approach to things, and this is very broad stroking, and again, it's just my opinion and experience so far. But when I was telling people I was going to go do rally duck, when I was telling people I was going to go and do this Harley build, when I was telling people I was going to push the envelope just a little bit in the UK, everyone told me reasons not to. Everybody.
Yeah.
And you see the same thing. You'll have the guy that's been a chippy, a carpenter for 20 years of his life for a company, and he tells his buddies that he's going to go and start on his own. And a lot of people will say negative reasons to not do it. And you're like, you fucking kidding me? And in America, I could turn around to Adam, my boss at Triumph. I could turn around to him and say, I think I want to try and take a Triumph Rocket 3 up Mount Washington in Seattle. And he'd be like, fuck yeah, film it. And it's that simple. And that's not Adam, that's everybody, it's that you're going to have a go. Yeah. What do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need? We want to help you achieve this. If you're going to try, we're going to back you. We're going to give you everything you can to not fail. And that is ingrained from little kids. It's that whatever you want, you can go and get it, but you have to be the one going and getting it. People will support you and back you, but you've got to put yourself out there first. And that's the big thing in America. Whereas in the UK, it does very much feel a lot more like, stay in your box, stay in your lane, don't rock the apple cart, everything's fine.
Totally.
And I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, it annoys me a little bit. The bike industry over here, I try to take myself out it as much as I possibly can, because it just fucking annoys me. You have to play the game over here. You have to. Yep. I'm just not into any of that. I'm not into.
I would say maybe we need to talk about this part off the podcast, but I would say if you ever need to start getting a little bit more help with manufacturers, you need to come to America, because
Can you talk to my wife, please?
Yeah, let's make it into a holiday. Like literally, like I've got an event at the end of June. I've got an event at the end of June, and Ducati's going to be there, Yamaha's going to be there, Triumph's going to be there. And you could fly into Seattle. Seattle's beautiful that time of year. You can fly into Seattle and you can make 3 days of it, a motorcycle, and the other 2 weeks you can do whatever the fuck you want. You could go down, California 1, Highway 1. You could go do that ride, fly back out of LAX. And 3 days, 3 days, you'd make more connections than 2 years of the UK. Because the thing that people forget is that there are more motorcycles sold in California than the entirety of Europe. So no one fucking cares about it. Yep. The motorcycle industry in America is a whole beast. So when people are like, you're trying to do something in the UK market, it's just not big enough.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's not slagging off the UK. It's just like the opportunities in motorcycling here is ridiculous. And like, to put a different spin on it, I won a British Rally Championship, and I got a single can of beer from a 6-pack with a sticker on it. Really? That's what I won. I didn't win any money. That's what I got. That's all I got. I did a race here, a local race in the state of Colorado. I got within the top third. I got like 140th out of 480 something riders. I got $10 back for my gas. I didn't get fuck all. I got $10 back in my bank account for my gas money.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. You know, the power of the industry here. Could you imagine that every racer that goes there, if you get within the top third, you get your money, you get $10 for gas? Could you imagine that in the UK? You'd be fucking bankrupt within 2 days.
Yeah. I mean, it's just logistics as well, isn't it? Here in the UK, the market is so much smaller, for sure. But I think, as you've nailed it there, it's a different attitude. It just is a different attitude. It's a different attitude between people. It's a different attitude between the industry. Yeah, it certainly feels more over there. As you've said it. Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, they're not going to do anything to start. They're not going to do anything to help you when you start. But as soon as you start, they're going to do everything they can. Mm-hmm. If you as long as you move your leg forward one step, they're going to help you.
Yeah. Oh God, shit. No. Right, let's go for a question, shall we? Get off this. Z1000 Wanderer, he says, if you could take attributes from every OEM and build the perfect bike for you, what would they be and why? Oh, and why is it a CRF 450X? So, well, every attribute from an OEM bike.
That's difficult because we all need like 5 bikes, right?
No, just buy a GS. It does everything.
There you go. Yeah, I think I'm going to build like my overland like adventure bike. That's what I'm going to take. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take the chassis of the Tiger, of the Triumph Tiger 900.
Oh, that's convenient, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to take the chassis. It handles very, very well. That's the biggest thing. I'm going to take that chassis. Engine-wise, I'd take a KTM 1090 engine.
Oh, why the 1090?
I don't like big bikes. Okay. I much prefer riding a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow. I love the feeling of using all of the engine. And how I like to ride a bike is very, very tail happy. I love sliding the back end on a motorcycle. And that's my favorite thing to do. So coming through a corner, when you're at a certain speed sliding, you slow down by accelerating and you brake by closing the throttle. So, because the back wheel's spinning, yeah? Mm-hmm. So in order to slow down, you need the back wheel to lose grip. So you need to spin the wheel more so that it doesn't grip, so that it slows down. And then to accelerate, you close the throttle so it grips more. So it's counterintuitive. So you need a very, very predictable engine to do that. And you need total trust in that throttle connectivity. And to me, the bigger the bike, sometimes the less that connectivity is. And also maybe the less trust I have in myself to control that size engine. And then you can get into the whole, centrifugal force and blah, 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 blah. But to me, the 1090s, it sounds fucking awesome. It's still 1100cc. So like the fact that we're calling 1100cc midweight is laughable, but like it's got a very connected rear wheel. Mm-hmm. And I know I can hammer that throttle and I know what the rear wheel is going to do. Whereas the 1290, I'm hammering that throttle and becoming very faithful that someone's going to fucking pick me up when I shit it. So it's just like, I don't have to think, because as soon as I think on a motorcycle, that's a half second that I could have been braking or accelerating.
Gotcha.
So yeah, take 1090 engine because I prefer the midweights. I wouldn't touch a 1290 or a GS. It's just too big for me. I don't do 2-up. Jenna rides, don't do long trips because I don't want to go for a long time. I want to ride fast off road for a long time. I don't want to take cross country trips.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 1090 engine, Tiger frame. Really, really like the Tiger chassis. I would probably look at the KTM 450R rally tanks to pull the weight down.
Mm-hmm.
So I could have a full seat, like all the way up, like front to back. I could have a full seat rather than smacking my nuts every time I brake. I'd put 2118 wheels on it, whatever, pull out whatever it comes on. I don't really care. But 2118, I'd make it chain drive because I know how to work on them rather than shaft drive. And then I'd take the 52 mil factory shocks off YZ 450 KYBs front, and then the factory shock off the back. And then
the factory suspension, would you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd take factory. That's the most important part. The most important part of a motorcycle is the suspension. So I'd take the factory suspension and then I'd get someone to tune it to my weight. But yeah, factory suspension, like that much adjustability on the clickers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I do. Factory suspension. If I could only splurge on one part of the motorcycle, it would be suspension, and then tires. That'd be and then you touch anything else.
Okay, right.
I'd throw that on, and then I'd put like the old school like Baja headlight off an XR 400, just because it looks fucking mean, like Mad Max style.
Okay, this is where we're going to start World War III. What tires would you put on it?
Michelin Enduro mediums. I don't really care about knobblies on the road. I've dragged pegs on Enduro tires, but I really care about how they work off road.
Yeah,
and I trust Michelin tires with my life. Like that's my only caveat to when I'm leading for Triumph is that Michelin's go on.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm not sponsored by them. I think a lot of it is to do with, I know exactly what they're going to do. The predictability on them. Are they perfect everywhere? No, but I know where they suck, so I can ride around it. And that's the thing. I really like TKC80s as well. But I just find the Anarchy Wild is a little bit more predictable through a heavy corner. When you're really kind of hooking it in, I just feel like it sticks a little bit better. And then I've never found it wanting. And that's the big thing. When I'm leading rides out, I'm leading people of different abilities, and I have to know. Sometimes I'm going from ride. So like, okay, this last weekend, I led a ride out. I set the cruise control on a bike off road at 20 mile an hour because I was fucking bored. So I set the cruise control at 20 mile an hour and just ride along.
Jesus.
And then I take out Ronnie Renner, who's a freestyle motocross champion, and I have the same bike pinned at 116. So I have to trust the tires. Like I have to know what they're doing. Yeah. And then the same with someone else. Like if we come into a sand section, I can tell them, look, just pick your head up, lean back, and keep a constant throttle. The tire will not fucking move. I need to be able to have that confidence. So Michelin's. But again, not sponsored, not getting paid. Tried a lot of tires, a lot of great tires out there. I trust them and I know what they're going to do.
I get asked all the time because I'm sort of known for being on the GS and riding a GS on the road and the track and trail, very light trail stuff. But people always say to me, "What's the best tires for the GS for this type of riding?" And I always say to people, these are the tires, like what you just said. These are the tires that I like. Yeah. But it's mental. It's all mental. It's like whatever tire gives you that confidence, or like you said, confidence because you know what it's going to do how it's going to react under certain conditions. If you're confident in the tire, you're going to be relaxed. And once you're relaxed, the bike will do its thing, won't it?
Yeah.
It will just behave. It will
100%.
Right.
You know, like with the enduro, with the racing, the Michelin Enduro Medium is the standard. If you go into a British Enduro paddock, the most popular tire you're going to see there is a Michelin Enduro Medium, because it does work very well, especially in muddy, sloppy conditions. It works phenomenally well. But I went and raced that like desert race, and that's what I put on, so I know what it's going to do. And that's the big thing for me is, there's such a difference in tires and also tire pressures. You know, so it's like Metzler's like to run a slightly less pressure than a Michelin, because it's got a slightly harder sidewall, so it doesn't warm up as quick as a Michelin on the same pressure. So if you run in a Metzler, if you run it 2 psi less than you'd run a Michelin, the rear wheel grips better for you. So just playing with those, you're frowning at me.
No. I'm just thinking, because like on the road, like 2 psi is a big old. Oh no, I'm thinking of bar. Am I thinking of bar? Yeah, I'm thinking of bar. Like 2 bars.
PSI,
like fucking hell.
Yeah, PSI is not a lot, but it makes a big difference to how the rear wheel. So when you come into a corner, like Tigers come with Metzlers, and we put Michelins on them for off road. But the Metzler, you have to run slightly less pressure, because when you're coming in, they just don't warm up as quick. So you'll come into a corner and crack the throttle up, and you'll feel it buck and weave just slightly. And don't forget, you know, for your average rider, you're going to be running them in. You know, so you're not nailing it. Whereas we get brand new bikes delivered to us, and then I've got to go and pre-run the course as fast as I can to make sure that it's safe for everyone. So I jumping on brand new bikes with brand new tires and fucking spanking it. So if you're on Metzlers, you do just run them a little bit less. And it's just like that difference is, if someone runs a Metzler and they're like, oh yeah, it feels like it bucks and weaves on the back, it's like, was it new and what pressure were you running? That's the first question. Because it doesn't work as well. And then if you're like, oh, I've always run Michelins, or I've always run TKC80s, you're like, yeah, it's going to feel different. Run less pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
Or put on what you like, you know?
Yeah, totally. Right, I'm just looking at questions here. We've got 2 more on Instagram. That 990 guy, that's your man, isn't it?
That's Seats.
Yeah, Seats. He says, what's the plans for the HD build now? Baja?
I want to get some Supermoto wheels for it.
Right.
And Baja's right here, you know? So kind of stupid not to.
Draw your own conclusion from that.
Exactly. But yeah, Supermoto wheels for sure. And then there is a very famous race very close to me now that wasn't in the past. So yeah, probably.
Oh, mate,
might need to get a Patreon going on for that one, just for my medical bills.
Oh wow! You have to get Ollie over to film it.
Yeah. So when Ollie is back live on Ollie Moto, I think we'll hold on till then. I might go pre-run it by myself, so I don't have any video footage of me looking like a pleb. But maybe when he's back live, that could be our welcome home gift.
Yeah, nice one. Looking forward to him coming back on as well. Right. Seats also says, what's the best tip for a weekend trail rider who wants to go racing?
That's a good one. I would say, see how long you can actually ride the bike for. A lot of people go trail riding. There's a lot of gates in the UK. So you ride 5 minutes and then stop for 30 seconds. Then you ride 5 minutes and you stop for 30 seconds. And that's not how racing works. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be a motocross track, but somewhere that you can lap is good. Even if you find a trail system that doesn't have gates on it, you know, just see how long you can actually ride without stopping. It's a big thing that a lot of people get caught by. Yeah. Because
the endurance side of things.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you were running a marathon, you got to stop every mile, you'd piss it. Yeah. But the hard part of the marathon is the continual run.
Every quarter of a mile, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if you break it down into small enough, it's easy.
100 feet, maybe.
Yeah. So I would say do that, and then I would say don't ask anybody any questions on any public forum. I would say find a buddy or a mate that does it and go and do it, and just fucking ignore everybody else. But if you can go to a motocross track first, or like an enduro play day, it's good because you get used to motorcycles coming past you. Because that's a big thing on the trails, is that no one really ever gets overtaken. Whereas you go to a race, if you go and do a hand hands within the first lap, you're going to have the next pack coming past you. So, and it can be unnerving. So if you can do that, get used to being overtaken, learn what to do in terms of like holding your line, or if someone says pass, let them pass, and just see how long you can ride a motorbike for, and stay the fuck off Facebook. You'll be fine. And like, you know, a lot of people kind of put pressure on themselves and all this shit. Just go and do it. Just go and do it. It's a lot of fun. Even if you hate every minute of it, you can now say you have raced it and you know what it's like. And watching any other race, you'll have so much more of an appreciation of what the guys are going through. You know, like you'll go watch BSB and you'll think, fuck me. You know, it's just, it puts everything into perspective. You don't need to have done that race. You just have so much more of an appreciation now of what they're doing and what they're going through.
Yeah. I've had mates that they just raced in like the No Limits Rookie Cup. You know, it's like the bottom level of racing, taster to get you into it. And they were like, it was like a drug for them. They were just like, that feeling you get on the start line, waiting for the lights to change to go. And they were just like, it's the best feeling they've ever had in their entire life. And as you just said, it gave them that new appreciation for what it must be at the highest the highest level. I was thinking BSBs, but even taking that up to MotoGP level.
You know, everything makes sense now. And I think that's a great thing about motorcycling, that sport, is that it's so accessible still currently. You know, like if you want to go and do F1, if you want to go race a car, it's not as accessible. But if you've got an adventure bike, you can go, I don't know, Sweet Lamb do like the Baja rounds. There's 3 or 4 of them now. You can go and enter one of them, change your tires, you know. Big thing. If you're on an adventure bike, get off-road tires, but throw some decent tires on it, pay your entry fee, and go and do it. And then when you watch Dakar, you're like, holy shit. You know, like you've just done a 20-mile lap and you're absolutely hooped. And then you look at Dakar and they're like, oh yeah, so today's stage is 560 miles. And you're like,
I know. Yeah. And then you have to do the transition to the next stage.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's very good to anyone to do a race, because you realize some people's race is their first sporting endeavor. And it's good to know what your body does when it's under pressure. Not everyone knows that.
Bring it down a level or two. Do you know a chap called Ed Palmer?
Yep.
This question, ass or titties?
Ass.
You're an ass man.
I can grow tits. Ass takes sculpting. You know what I mean?
Got some double D's here.
That's the thing. There's teenage girls the world over that have looked at my titties with envy. Ass takes sculpting.
You got some junk in the trunk.
Exactly.
Seats has got another question. How much wood would a woodchuck cut if a woodchuck could cut wood? I'm surprised I said that a couple of beers in.
Double the amount of half of it.
Is this something you debated after many beers with him before?
Probably. He's probably said that to me when I was wiring the fucking Harley for the first time, and that's why I nearly set myself on fire.
Right, that's all the Instagram ones. We have one more over on Facebook, and I think that will bring us to almost the 3-hour mark, mate.
Apologies.
I thought to myself, we'll do 2 hours. I think I could do another 2 happily. But anyway.
There's still loads of stuff we haven't talked about.
I know. Right, so across the Facebook, which is at TeapotOne, first one, well, the only one, Simon Broom. Hi, and hope you're both well. My questions are: what are the differences between USA and UK bike cultures, and which do you prefer? Well, we've covered that, haven't we?
I think a very big one that we didn't touch on is the ease of access here. So I had to retake my car and motorcycle test here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. The motorcycle test here is not a motorcycle license; it's a motorcycle endorsement, and the wording of that is very important. You cannot operate. There's probably a state, because obviously it's 50 states that all operate as like 50 countries, but my experience in Georgia and a couple of the others, you cannot operate a motorcycle without having a car license.
Oh, okay? Wow.
So you pass your car test, and then you add on the motorcycle endorsement. So the very test of the motorcycle is totally different. You pass your car test, and then I think it's the mod 1. I did like mod 1, mod 2, all that stuff with the bike. So I did the off-road, which wasn't off-road, and then I did that way. I did do direct access, but the mod 1, where you kind of go through the cones and then emergency stop, that part, that's all you do for your bike test here.
That's it.
That's it. Because the understanding is that you already know the rules of the road because you've got your car test. So you already know all that. You still have to do a motorcycle theory test, which is similar to ours. You know, it's if you've never done a motorcycle at all, you need to study for it. But if you operate a motorcycle, like I could send it you and you'd pass it. You know, it's a basic motorcycle knowledge test, and then a couple of road signs, pretty standard. But then you ride. So I did it on my Tiger, 900, and you weave in and out of 4 cones, and then you go back to the start, and then you go a swerve test. So you ride right, left, and back, and then you come up to a junction, which is cones, stop, cross diagonally, stop in the next box, and then you do an emergency stop, and you had to go up to 16 miles an hour and stop. And I said 16. And I said, what happens if I stop before the cones? And she was like, no one's ever done that. I was like, no, I understand that, but what happens if I do? Is it fail? Because in the UK it is. You know, you've got to stop in the cones. And she was like, no. I was like, okay. So I went to 16 miles an hour, stopped bloody miles before the cones. Congratulations, you got a bike test. That was it. It was all of 5 minutes. Okay. So ease of access to that part, far, far easier. Second part to it is the average person I will speak to at a given demo event will have 4 motorcycles because of the salary difference. So they can afford their toys. You know, like everyone has 4 or 5 motorbikes or a boat, or, you know, like they all have their toys. Your average, like if you're speaking to an adventure rider in the UK, they're usually a certain class and pay level, broad speaking. In America, it's very much the case of, wait, you don't have 2 bikes? Well, why the fuck not? You know what? It's a toy. You should have toys. You should have, and then you'll be like, I only have 2 motorbikes because I've got jet ski and a snowmobile and a boat. And they're like, oh, cool. That's it. So the pay difference is a big one as well. So your access to motorcycles is easier then as well because you can afford it. The weather makes a big one. That's the dog. The weather makes a big one as well. It doesn't rain as often, hardly at all. I've been in Colorado now 8 months. It's rained 3 times total. So it's a lot easier to get out and ride.
I'm going to be knocking on your door at this rate.
When you go and ride, once you're out of the city, if anyone's ever been to the US, once you're out of the city, the US was designed, the road system was designed to get things from one place to another. So the actual navigation of it is very, very easy. It's easy to ride a motorbike here. And I think the final part of that is it's a damn sight more accepting. It's a damn sight more accepting. It can be quite elitist. It can be quite elitist in the UK from a motorcycle perspective. Not everybody, you know, but there's usually an element of an old guard with it. And it can be quite intimidating if you think about it. If you turn up at a motorcycle night, it's like, in my experience, not always is people are forthcoming to kind of introduce themselves and welcome you and help you. Whereas in America, it is, you know, it's very much like, oh, you ride bikes, like, let's go hang, let's go do things. It's a lot more open to that. And again, that's not me saying that America is all flowers and blowjobs. It's not at all. But in terms of ease of accessibility for motorcycling and to get on it, and how welcoming that community is, because everyone has a motorbike. Because the test is so easy and motorcycles are everywhere. There's motorcycle dealerships everywhere. You know, in my little town here, there's a Kawasaki Honda gas KTM dealer right here. And if I go 20 miles north or south, there's every mark supported by a dealership 20 miles north and south.
Wow.
So it's right there. It's right easy. All your gear is right there, and all your gear is carried. They sell motorcycle helmets in Walmart, for fuck's sake. It's
Really?
like it's right there. Yeah, it's right there. You know, you don't need to spend a lot of money. It's right there. There is motorcycle showrooms that will happily tell you and advise, and they want you to enjoy it. So to get into it, it's arguably easier than buying your first car because they want you to come and ride a motorbike, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest differences. I think the other side of that is because it's so easy, you get a lot of people that don't have a fucking clue. And I don't mean that in a horrible way. Sorry.
No worries.
There's a lot of people that don't have a clue and don't have the skills that they need because everyone wants a Harley, and a Harley is a big, cumbersome, awkward motorcycle to move around. So they pass their test, you know, running around these cones, and they can afford it because they've got the money.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So they go and buy their $25,000 Electroglide and crash it. And that is the negative side of it, I would say. I think a barrier to entry is not always a bad thing, but too much of a barrier is. And I think, you know, just like we talked about rallying earlier, it's you've got to cater to the masses, but it's difficult to. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, no, I get that. It's interesting what you said about the community side of things, and that I think maybe my view on it is tainted slightly because I have a following. You know, I've got the brand that I've built up, but my whole thing is about the community. You know, I'm very lucky in that I have a really strong community now built up around the channel and the TeapotOne brand, where, you know, we can go. We've just come back from the Isle of Man. We were in the Isle of Man 2 weeks ago, and, you know, almost 60 people came over to the Isle of Man. You know, it's a big financial commitment by people, but they all came across, and we stayed the weekend in a hotel. We all went on big rides, and we're doing that all around the country now. We're going, we had 80 or 90 people down in the southwest at the one before this one. So the community is really strong, and I find that, you know, when I turn up somewhere, generally somebody's going to come up and go, "Oh, Teapot, how are you?" But so in my head, the community thing is alive and well, and it's really strong.
I think once you're in the community, it is.
Yes. Yeah. When you're outside of that, it can be quite daunting.
It's awesome, but to get into it, and that's the thing, you've got 2-3 years to keep that rider. You know, they get their first bike, they either do it and love it, or they don't. Yeah. And then they buy another one and keep going, or it's kept or it's sold, you know. And when you add in the weather, which is a factor, unfortunately, you add in the weather, you know, you're a pretty hardy person to ride in Britain year round. You're very hardy, because if you don't ride in the rain, you're not riding, you know. But then if you try to step back to when you first started and think, were people welcoming to you before you were you? Or did they just kind of let you figure it out, as they do for most things in the UK? Whereas if you walk up to a bike night in the US, they will make an effort. The guys that have organized it will make an effort to know you're new there. They will make an effort to welcome you in. And by the time on your first bike night, you will have 3 people's phone numbers and 4 offers to go ride. Yeah. Because they want you to keep riding motorcycles. They want you to do that. And it's seeing it as a new, because I always look at it as a new rider, because the old rider's doing what he wants anyway. They're doing what they want. You know, like, you know, Jenna coming into it and riding dirt, like, it was so welcoming. She'd been adventurous. She'd never done dirt. They were so welcoming, and they did whatever they could to get her to enjoy it. And seeing it as a new rider, I think, is the important thing, because that's what's needed to keep it healthy. And there's always new riders in America. Always. And you go to the events and it's set up for the new riders. You know, it's like, this is where you go and get educated. This is where you go and get taught. These are people that want to help you, blah, 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 blah. And that's something that could be better in the UK. And it's again, it's not me slagging off the UK, because we keep ourselves to ourselves. We are a more reserved people. And America is loud, and it's, you know, hi, everything's awesome. Fucking
more in your face.
Monday. So there's pluses and minuses, but I think once you're in the community, the motorcycle community in America, in the UK is arguably tighter knit because of that.
Mm.
But it's harder to penetrate in.
I do think things are changing here. I think social media is having a big effect. There's definitely a younger crowd coming into biking.
Yep.
Not in the volumes that I think it needs, but there's definitely a lot more younger people coming in. There's a lot more women coming into biking now. And I think it is the sort of guard. I feel like the guard's coming down on the motorcycle community here in the UK. Trying to take myself out from obviously this little bubble that I have, but just looking at social media, there's a lot of new riders who are just turning up at bike meets, and people are all getting together and they're going away and doing stuff. You know, they're just going away on rides, and
that's
they're going.
Awesome.
And I love that. That's why I created my little community that I have, because I love seeing. For me, it's older people. You know, it's older people in my vintage, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, those sorts of people, predominantly guys who, a lot of people have just ridden, 3 months out of the year, and they've gone from their home to the local calf and back, and that's all they've done. And then for whatever reason, they make that decision to come along to one of our sort of meets that we do, and all of a sudden they meet other people like them. And these other people are, we go to Wales, or we go to Scotland, or I've been across to Ireland, or fuck, have you been across into France or Spain? And all of a sudden it opens up the world to these people. And I love watching like that community spirit just grow. And all of a sudden, these folk that have just gone from home to calf, home to calf, home to calf, all of a sudden they're meeting up with these other people outside of my TeapotOne thing. They're doing their own thing, and they're going off on trips, and they're trying off-road, or they're trying a track day, or and it's awesome to see all that. And you see people's lives just change. I get messages from folk that are just like, motorcycling saved me. It absolutely saved me, and they're like, they start telling you about the paths that they were on. It's awesome.
That's awesome. It's the best tool in the world. I think I will say as well, my view of it was probably warped, because how I treated motorcycles in the UK is different to how I treat them here. And I was also in Little Mid Wales, minding my own business, trying to be somebody, and very focused on what I was trying to do.
Gotcha.
Whereas here, I flew into LA and was kicking around the bike shed, and then go out to the Mojave Desert and then fly back. And I was in downtown Atlanta. Like, it's always big metropolitan cities that are nice, sunny, pretty, and look like Hollywood sets. So that has a big change on it as well, because obviously more people, more motorcycles, more access, blah, 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 blah. So I think I didn't do as much in the UK motorcycle community as I have here. So that's probably a warping of my own doing as well. So if it, I think the fact that there's a motorcycle community anywhere is always something that makes me feel better about the world. Whenever I think the world's shit, I see people riding motorbikes, and I'm like, could be worse.
It's a common denominator, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a universal language. You turn up on a motorcycle and someone's going to smile at you. Someone's also going to shake their fist at you, and it's always funny. But you ride anywhere, and people know. You'll find motorcycle. If you're on a motorcycle, you'll find motorcyclists, and you'll have someone to share a beer with or a coffee with, and I think that's the best thing.
And a wheelie's cool anywhere in the world.
100%. I can't wheelie, so skids are cool too.
Skids are very cool. Very cool. Right, dude. That's us hit 3 hours. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I really do appreciate you joining me for 3 hours of your life, Alan. Thank you very much, mate. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been good. It's been great to talk to you and catch up. Absolutely. Dude, have you got anything to promote? Have you got anything to plug? Feel free. Stage is yours. Keep having fun, people. Yeah, I think keep having fun. Be nice to each other. There's enough assholes in the world. Don't pick on the Harley guy. It's not his fault. If it stops being fun, I think, I've stepped away from the sport a couple of times, not for long times, and it was always self-inflicted. If it stops being fun, just cut yourself some slack. Don't keep doing the thing you've always done because it feels like part of your identity. Just if it starts being fun and shitty and horrible outside, just take 5. The bike's always going to be there. The road's always going to be there. Ride when the time is right, and make sure you keep having fun.
I think that's the big thing I say.
Like it.
Awesome.
Dude, I wish you and Jen the very best with the impending parenthood. You're going to smash it, obviously. And yeah, crikey. So I'll be moving over there quite soon, I think, by the sound of it.
Perfect. Whenever you want, let me know. Come do an event with us. I got bags here for you to come play with.
Oh, God. You might regret that.
Oh,
all right, dude. Really appreciate it. Thanks very much, man. Folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. Again, make sure you check out that Rally Duck series. The links will be down below. And give Al a little follow on his socials. All right, keep doing your thing. Look after those that you love. Get on out there whenever you can. But most importantly, live your life. Ooh-ha! Dude, that was mint.